Hey, good morning. Welcome to our international edition of Hoppy Hour. And we have a lineup for you guys today. If you've followed our social media accounts, you will know that this is all about women in beer. And we've got an excellent lineup of guests for you today. But first, let's talk a little bit about what we have coming up, who our guests are. We have Bombshell Beer Company, a women-owned brewery here in North Carolina that's going to join us. We also have Pink Boot Society. If you remember, we featured them as a nonprofit before, but we actually have a board member joining us from that organization to talk a little bit about what they do with women in beer. The last guest that will join us is Bitch Beer Podcast, a women-hosted beer podcast that talks and features women in beer and helps promote that aspect of it as well. So that should be we've got a great episode and a great list of guests that are going to be lined up for you today. We'll also talk a little bit about our Patreon that we've got started. Great movement so far with that. We'll talk beer school with Professor Hoppy down there in Florida. We'll also talk about a little bit of hops news, have some beer news out there that we'll discuss as well. But before we do all of that, let's head to Mountain Home, Idaho, and check in with our very chilly Mash in Mountain Home, Idaho. Mash, how's it going this morning? Awesome. Yeah, it's a what did you say the temperature is out there? What are we looking at?
Here it is brutal.
Awesome. Well, it looks like you're all bundled up out there, and hopefully you stay warm, sitting outside, trying to keep it as quiet as you can for us. We definitely appreciate your efforts and doing all that work and taking in that cold. Let's go check in with. Let's go up to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and looking like a rough start up there. Lucky, how's it going this morning?
I've seen better days, Jay. Not gonna lie. I don't think I've stopped drinking since Thursday's Hoppy Hour, but I'm here. I wasn't gonna miss Brew Witch again, so yeah, I'm glad to be back. I'm sipping on. This was not planned, but I also grabbed a Louis Demise and I made myself a little beer mosa. So, cheers, and I'm ready. I'm excited.
Awesome. We appreciate you pulling out that hair of the dog there for us this morning and making your way to your makeshift studio. We definitely appreciate it. So again, thank you for joining us out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That is, man, there is one lucky dude. You went to school. Did you go up to school up there as well, Lucky?
Yeah, I went to Platteville, Wisconsin. So that's like a little rinky-dink town. I want to say it's like an hour west of Madison. So that's the big, obviously UW Madison is the big college town. But I got to spend a lot of time there. But I was at Platteville, so yeah, it's a good time.
Awesome.
Good time.
Awesome. Let's go down to Florida. I bet you it's not 44 degrees in Florida this morning. Hoppy, how are things going in Florida this morning?
It is 80 and sunny so far. And I am about to open, I don't know why I like going big, I guess, first thing on Sunday mornings. I'm about to open a 13%er, Morning Wood.
Oh my God.
It's the imperial version of Funky Buddha's Maple Bacon Coffee Porter, and I believe this is a 2016. I was trying to find a year, because I know it's one of the older ones. So get a nice pour going here. I mean, I can't function until I have my coffee, and this is still pretty early, so I figure a high percenter beer will help me make
She's
sure you all
pass
learn
out
everything.
midstream.
Yeah, that's
as long as
awesome.
I get through beer school, we're good.
Awesome. We
It smells
definitely
amazing, though.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you joining us from warm, balmy Florida this morning. I think our first guest is on the line. If you can hear us, Carli, we'll get you on the show in just a second, but you should be able to hear us. Just stay on hold there. Yeah, let's go check in. Let's see our last one. Last but not least, our Brew Witch. They're in Germany. Brew Witch, how's it going in Germany this morning? Actually, it's the afternoon out there.
Yeah, it's a bit easier for me. It's about 4 p.m., so it's not as early for a beer, so at least I have that going for me. Otherwise, doing well. The last time I joined you guys for a chat, I was very ill-prepared and only brought one beer, and then had to run to the kitchen and get more. So this time I brought 3, so I'm feeling quite prepared and ready for our chat today. I'm excited.
Yeah, we generally go through about 4 during the episode, and then you really got to hang around for the after party usually, and that's usually another 2 or 3. So we appreciate you stretching it out with us this afternoon. It'll by the time this episode's done for us here on the East Coast and out west where MASH is, we'll be primed for a good Sunday. That's for sure.
God, yeah, it's 8 a.m. here.
So we'll go back to all 5 of us, man. This is the first time we've had all 5 of us on the screen at one time. Obviously, will lead to some challenges that we're overcoming by the minute here, but we definitely appreciate you sticking around. This is a learning experience for us as much as it is an experience for you, and to bring 5 people from all stretches of the world really together on a screen and to get this type of quality is not easy. I can assure you that. So it leads to a lot of work in the beginning, but we definitely apologize for any technical issues that we do run into. It's a learning process for everybody, as it is for the entire industry really. Bomber jacket giveaway. That's always a thing on Hops News, and we have a cool one. This is the last of my stash.
That's pretty sweet.
This is a Lego one. I will tell you, bomber jackets are where it's at. That's the last one of the giveaway, and as always, we are going to offer it up to a random person that gives. So hit that donation button. If anybody can give us feedback, I know there's been some problems with that donation button in the past, but let us know and make sure that donation button is showing up today. And it
works.
Awesome. It is Pink Boot Society again. We had them on our first international episode, but we felt like we could probably reach out to somebody and get them to join us. And let's see if Carli is on the phone here now. Good morning, Carli. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning.
Hey, we appreciate you joining us. I hope things are going as well for you as they are us.
Yeah, things are going pretty good. I mean, it's a sunshiny day. Weather's nice. We're good. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, Carli. So a little bit of Facebook stalking this morning. I not only discovered that you were a board member of the amazing Pink Boots Society, but you're also a brewer.
Yes. Yeah. So I will be the head brewer for the D9 Brewing Company here in Cornelius, North Carolina. We are opening up another location that is going to be in Uptown Charlotte. For people who are not in Charlotte, our Uptown is basically downtown Charlotte.
It's a beautiful area.
It's going to be real fun. It's about 6 blocks from Panther Stadium, and it's going to be a real fun 5-barrel system that we're going to do a bunch of R&D and collaboration brews and just all the fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, I've got to give that the breaking news stinger. You heard it here first. Carli is not only a brewer with D9, but she's probably the newest head brewer at D9 and maybe the newest female head brewer in the nation. So, yeah, that's awesome. And I'm just so you know, Carli, I'm just up the road in Blowing Rock, North Carolina, and pretty familiar with D9 stuff. Had I done some Facebook stalking before, I'd have picked up some D9 beer and had it with me this morning. But definitely awesome to hear, and the Uptown area is definitely a cool location, and to get to head that brew house is going to be pretty awesome. That's pretty special.
Mm-hmm. It's
I actually had a Hakuna Matata the other day, so I would have held it until today if I had known.
Yeah, like that's a really great area too. Like you're right there next to the Bobcats, or the Hornets these days. Their stadium, Panther Stadium's up the road. They have a minor league baseball team even. So there's a lot. For people who don't know Charlotte, there's a lot right in that small area. So it's a beautiful, beautiful town.
So
we're having a lot of people move out here. It's definitely a very growing city.
Yeah, Absolutely. We have a lot of Floridians transplant up there. They just want to escape Florida, I guess. But yeah, they're moving up there, and we're getting your beer down here. So it's a lot of back and forth. You get our people, we get your beer.
So before we get too hot and heavy into the serious questions we have for Carli lined up here, if you're watching any of the viewers out there, go ahead and like us, share us, comment, bring somebody else into the conversation with us. Donate. Don't forget to hit up that Pink Boots Society donation button. It's how you'll get entered to win this awesome bomber jacket this morning here. We're also on YouTube and our Twitter account, as well as Facebook. If you're wanting to donate, you got to go hit us up on Facebook. That's where the donation button is. Carli, tell us how you got started in beer. Now that you look back on where you're at today, where was the point in your life that you picked up a beer, had a sip, and said, I've got to be a part of this?
It definitely would have been, so I'm originally from San Diego, California, and I started when I went to college in San Diego, I was working, just to pay the bills at Gordon Biersch Brewery Restaurant in San Diego. And so I started there before I was legally allowed to drink. So I didn't really kind of know any of the beer side of it. And then when I turned 21, one of the things that we did there is our brewer kind of would have a beer with you once you turned 21. And you'd talk about the beer and taste all the beers, really get more educated on the products. And that's when I kind of sat down and I was just like, whoa, it was a whole, flavor experience for me, really well-made German-style lagers. And then after that, I studied abroad in Austria, Salzburg and Vienna. And again, I was definitely very lager-heavy in my beginning days. And then while I was working at Gordon Biersch, as just, working on the restaurant side of things, I was at a staff meeting and our brewer was in between assistants. And he just kind of, at our all-staff meeting, asked if, anybody wanted to help out, schlep grain around, do the grunt work. And I didn't have any classes during the time that he needed help. So I was like, sure, extra hours, I'll do it. Then I started really kind of educating myself, reading a lot of books, working with him more, working with a couple of other brewers in San Diego more. And then I kind of got sucked in. I felt like it was going to be a little bit more rewarding becoming a brewer than becoming an accountant.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Just so happens there's two of us sitting on this side of the mic. Yeah, that's awesome. And if you're coming up in an area like San Diego, trying to avoid the beer scene, you would definitely have to go out of your way. So I can see where you would you'd kind of get brought into that there. So tell us a little bit about Pink Boots Society. Tell us about their start and kind of what it is that Pink Boots Society does and how people can get involved other than hitting that donate button and dropping some change in there this morning.
Yeah. So Pink Boots it started as a really small grassroots organization. I mean, it wasn't even an organization at its start. Our founder, Terry Ferendorf, she kind of went on this little kind of road trip of like visiting other breweries around the country to try and find other women who were working in the industry. And that's when she ended up on her trip. She ended up at Stone Brewing Company in San Diego, and that is where she met Laura Ulrich, Laura is now she's our current president. And it was just kind of this epiphany moment where they're just like, wow, like, there are other women in the industry. How great would it be if we could all be connected? So they started the Pink Boots Society, and it was just, a way of connecting with other women in the organization. And from that, we kind of gleaned that the biggest factor for not having as many women in the industry is not as many women have the opportunities for the education that needs to happen to break into the industry. So that is why our whole nonprofit portion is all about education and providing scholarships and support for women in the industry. So our whole kind of mission is to assist, inspire, encourage, and educate women in the beer industry. And then we also just recently, I think within the last month, opened it up to pretty much all of the fermented beverages, so that we now are doing beer, wine, cider, hard kombucha, distilling. So we really, because, a lot of women, they run into the same kind of challenges in those areas as you do in beer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you used to go to breweries, you might not notice, but now I've definitely noticed, at least in the breweries that I'm going to, there's a lot more women back there. They're hand in hand, they're not just tending the bar, they're actually brewing the beer. Mm-hmm. And it's something that's really great to see, because this community is for everybody. And, why not be able to try to push that and get some more into that community and back there behind, and it's a great thing.
Yep.
So Carli, how do people, what is the resources that you offer to people that are like you in your early days that are interested in becoming involved in the beer industry to get their start? Is there resources that are available to young women and women that you guys could offer to help them?
Yeah, so we offer scholarships in all areas of the brewing industry. Sales. We do a lot with Cicerone. We do a lot with Siebel and the UC Davis Extension Program. And basically, we have a lot of chapters all around the world. Some of our biggest chapters internationally are Australia and Spain. But then we've also got chapters throughout the U.S. And they can join their local chapter. And it's a really great opportunity for networking within your local market. And then there's also a huge, opportunity of being able to get in communication with people across the country and across the globe. And the scholarships that we offer are open to all of our members. And I mean, that's some of the best opportunities for women are those scholarships. We've got one of the ones that we're about to award. I think we just finished the decision process, is the opportunity to go brew at Delirium in Belgium.
Oh, wow.
And you get to participate. You get to participate in brewing their annual Deliria beer.
That's
awesome.
That's a really, really cool opportunity. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive to build relationships like that. That's amazing. So how do people find Pink Boot Society? Where do they go to get this information? How do they apply for scholarships like that? What does that process look like for individuals that may be interested?
Yeah, so it's pinkbootsociety.org. That's our website. And then that's where you'll find our membership application. And our membership, the requirements for being a member is you work in the beer industry. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's at least 25% of your income has to come from the brewing industry. Or you can also be a brewery in planning. And then you can also be a student. So if you're already in a program and you're kind of looking for those networking opportunities when you're ready to find a job, we also have a student membership option. And then once you're a member, you'll find where your local what chapter would be closest to you is, and then you can go through and apply for those memberships. We're currently doing monthly memberships, and they change every month. So we do stuff with White Lab, Siebel, like I said. We've got one that with New Mexico State University that's going to be over in Belgium, but I think we had to delay that due to all the COVID craziness.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all of that information can be found on our website, pinkbootsociety.org.
Awesome. And getting women involved in the beer industry is just as important as any other industry right now. Obviously, the beer industry is very much dominated by males at this point. So great organization, great cause. We have Carli from the Pink Boot Society on the phone with us, as well as the newest head brewer at D9. And that's going to be that's quite the resume you're building there, Carli. That's awesome. So you have the donation button set up there. You can see it on our Facebook page. If you're watching on our YouTube or our Twitter account, head over to the Facebook page, drop a little change in the Facebook donation bucket there, and get entered for the coolest
I'm stealing that bomber jacket
that we've had so far. That's a pretty amazing bomber jacket. We're going to have to hit the guys up and get some more sent our way. We've got some Hops News ones in the works, so that'll be pretty sweet here soon. Carli, what are some other things that you guys, I know you guys are working on some programs to try to get women more involved in judge of beer competitions and that sort of thing, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah, we do a little bit of that. We do a lot of the local meetings at each of the Pink Boot Stalkers. A lot of times, some of the educational portions of their meetings they will go through, and they'll have a lot of them also have study groups for the advanced Cicerone testing, which kind of goes hand in hand with learning beer styles for judging. But we also do some practice judging meetings where you look at a judging sheet and you all go through and taste the beer, and then you kind of go over what you need to be looking for in all of these different styles. One of our really big partnerships that we've been working on for the last, I think it's been like 4 years, is we partner with Yakima Chief Hops up in Yakima, Washington. Ooh. And nice. Every year,
that's how you say
it. And we partner with them, and at our annual meeting at GABF every year, we do a hop rub, and we create our own Pink Boot blend of a hop that people are able to buy from anywhere in the world, from homebrew size up to a 44-pound bag, and proceeds from the sale of those hops go towards Pink Boot. So it's one of our biggest fundraisers every year, and that just this past year we raised over $117,000.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
awesome. I just
that
seen
is
that.
insane.
I seen that in an
Brew
article
Witch,
this
you're
morning.
drinking one of those beers,
Yeah.
aren't you?
Yeah, I actually have. I'd love to hear more in general about the collaboration brew days because I think it's so cool. And right now, I'm drinking one from some of the Berlin brewers. I actually had to write down all the breweries that are a part of this because it's a lot. We have
Yeah.
Brewer, Brewdog, Brauerei Lemke, Schneeul, Vagabund, Einbau, and then it just said others. So to my knowledge, there are many people that
And
took part
others,
of this.
etc.
Yeah, many people.
There's an
So
all other button.
I guess so. So I was just curious in general, like from what you've seen in these collaboration brew days, how big have these collaboration days gotten? Has it been, is
Oh.
6 kind of like more normal, or is that higher, a lower amount of people that were participating?
I mean, it's collaboration brew day has gotten huge. This year has been a little bit hard for it, just due to pretty much the time when everybody is releasing these beers has been kind of when COVID hit. But before all of that, we had over 400 teams signed up across the world. And so usually what happens is they will brew the beer and they'll bring in either their local chapter or, you know, kind of women in their industry from all around. Different breweries will come together to do it. They will brew usually on or around International Women's Day, March 8th. And then they will release the beer later in March, and then a portion of the proceeds, usually from that beer, will get donated to Pink Boots. So that's between that and the sale of the hop blend, those are our biggest fundraisers every year. And it's a really great opportunity for us for marketing and getting Pink Boots' name out there and getting people to kind of really get the word out of like what we're trying to do and how we can help people throughout the industry.
For sure.
Since you've started in the industry, have you seen a shift in perception of women in the breweries? Because I read an article a few years ago that said people tend to like a beer less if they know a woman brewed it compared to a man. It was like a general study or something.
Yeah,
but
I read that article.
I personally feel like I've seen a lot more women in the industry since.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things is I feel like we're becoming more visible as well. It's not just it's not just the, you know, kitschy breweries that are, you know, pushing their female employees out onto their social media. It's, you know, hey, these are people who are in leadership roles. I'm Michelle, who's going to be on later. She's one of our Pink Boots members in Raleigh, and she is the one of 3 all female owners, and they are the owners of the brewery, Bombshell Brewing in Raleigh. And so I think it's becoming, there's a lot more women in the leadership roles, so it's becoming more visible. We're speaking a lot at a lot more conferences, and so people are really seeing that, you know, it's not just here and there. But one thing, that article that I did like seeing, because they broke it down to kind of like the general population, and then they broke it down to like people who drink craft beer often. They don't value beer made by women less. It was more the non-craft beer drinkers that would value a woman brewed beer less, which that made me feel a little better about it.
Yeah, that's so.
But that makes it more interesting. Sorry, Matt, just because those beers have specific recipes. If you're not drinking craft, it's like you're just following a recipe. Anybody could do that, and it's all technology driven and everything. So that's very interesting.
So I've got to say something, because there's a comment in the in our feed on Facebook by Bryn. Bryn says she met a brewer at Turtle Lake Brewing in Vietnam that Pink Boots donated 5 kilos of hops to her to brew for International Women's Day. That's awesome. When you guys are doing things like that, that just shows your reach to the women in the beer industry. And I'm surprised I didn't hear that there's a chapter in Germany. That is completely surprising.
we don't currently have an official chapter in Germany. And I think that I just talked about that because I have a friend who just moved to Germany from Australia, and she was part of the Australia Pink Boots, and she asked me, because she's like, you're on the board, like, is there a chapter out here? I can't find anything about it. And it's almost like Germany is so far advanced with their industry and acceptance of women in the industry that they don't really need us, which is like a good thing.
That's a good problem to have. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's because they're out there. It's not just kind of anybody can join the beer industry. You have to pass a certification. It's more of an apprenticeship, and then you test, and then you get a job. So it's a lot more equal across the board. So they kind of don't need us, which is really awesome in my opinion. But
yeah, that is.
That's
and real quick,
you're not even needed.
Yeah, and real quick, if Michelle is watching by chance, we will get you on in just a second. I know we're running in just a little bit longer than we anticipated, but great conversation so far with Carli out of Pink Boot Society. That is the donation button. Hit it up. You'll be entered for the coolest in our last bomber jacket until I receive more.
That's the Lego, man. So that's the one to have right there.
Hit that donation button up and be entered for that bomber jacket giveaway at the end of the episode. Also, share us, comment, get your friends, family involved in the conversation. Women in Beer. Pink Boot Society does amazing things to get more women involved in beer. Carli, what are some things that we haven't talked about Pink Boot Society that the viewers and us need to know about?
I mean, we kind of covered it. It's just, if you have any questions, kind of go to our website, and we've got a list of our chapters, so you can look up your area and you can see where your local chapters are. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And it's just Pink Boot Society. And we have a kind of a public page for fans. And then when you're a member, we also have a member page, which is super helpful. It's like a really great kind of hive mind when you have, an industry problem, or like there's something wrong with your beer and you don't know what you should do with it. You can kind of reach out, and it's a really great forum for kind of getting some answers that, no judgment answered.
Yeah, that's awesome. We also have another viewer on Facebook that says they drank at Rock Bottom in Charlotte when in town for an ACC championship when Carli was brewmaster there. So you got some fans on the viewer end. Definitely have remembered your liquid. So that's awesome when you start to build people that are following like that. That's pretty amazing and speaks for itself.
That's great.
Yep, Carli, we definitely appreciate your time this morning, and I will tell you, I'm gonna say it from our end. Hops News is going to be committed to developing this relationship. We need to continue to, on a regular basis, kind of host you guys as a nonprofit, and maybe even one of these episodes we can make it an all women's episode and get our other halves. Other than Lucky, he might have to flip a coin or something up there in the bachelor life in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But we'll have to arrange something like that. But I think I think continuing this relationship with Pink Boots and yourself personally, I think would be pretty awesome, and making sure that we bring you guys on the forefront on a regular basis, because it's a great cause. I'm a father of a young daughter, and understand without organizations like this, they really don't have a voice until they get to be that age where they can be their own voice. So definitely appreciate everything you guys are doing, and thank you for your time this morning. Yeah. One last sort of question again, and reminder for the viewers: where can people find you personally on social media, and how can they find Pink Boot Society?
So I'm on Instagram, Carli Smith SD, and then we've got D9 Brewing Uptown CLT. That'll be my work Instagram, and then we've got Pink Boot Society on Instagram, and then we've got Pink Boot Society on Facebook, and then I'm pretty sure it's Pink Boot Society on Twitter. Make it really easy for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. We definitely look forward to catching up with you again here soon and bringing you back on an episode and maybe a whole episode about what you're doing. So definitely appreciate your time and thank you for joining us. And hope you have a great I hope you have a great Sunday afternoon down there in Charlotte.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.
So
Awesome.
let's I think Michelle was probably watching because I haven't heard from her yet. Yep, I
have to say, with Pink Boots and everything, I was supposed to go to that Femme Ale Brew Fest in March. I still have my ticket. And I was bummed I was missing out on all the amazing beer, but I was also missing out on they actually do like a whole education segment and people come out there and, talk about promoting women and not just women, just diversity in general in beer. And so I'm bummed that I kind of missed those lectures. So having her on here, I think that's great getting to talk to more people like this since we're not able to go to all these conferences and festivals right now. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I definitely can appreciate and love the work that they're doing. And Carli's personal story is pretty amazing. I mean,
it is.
D9 Brewing has opened up a new location and trusting her as being the brewmaster in Uptown Charlotte, that kind of speaks for itself. And as she said, Uptown is the downtown of Charlotte.
Yep.
So it's pretty cool to be that for them. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I should actually.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we always do that. Just two of us.
We do.
I just wanted to mention real quick, Bryn, who commented, she works at Castle Church Brewing, and they're a brewery I'd love to get on one day because they're actually a church and a brewery, so they do a lot of good for the community, and their beer is awesome. They do amazing, classic styles as well, and she would be somebody who would be awesome to have on the show one day, and I ran into her the other day, and I'm going to get you on the show one day.
Get her on the show. That sounds a church that also brews beer, this beer is brewed in the name of Jesus. Let's go.
Well, no, and everyone there, so even the pastor, he's come over with a beer and sat down and talked to us before.
They just pass really instead of the wine, instead of the wine for the offering in the morning, they're just handing out beers. That's the kind of
they
church
don't even brew it. Jesus just comes in and turns the water into beer. That's it.
This is the kind of place I'm going.
Speaking of beer, let's go around the world and check in with beer. Let's head to Florida. Hoppy, what are you drinking down there?
Oh, this was a bomber. I'm still on my 13% or Morning Wood.
Oh, nice.
It's going to fall any minute now.
Some Morning Wood in Florida. That's pretty appropriate. 13%er. That's pretty impressive. Let's go check in with Mash out in Mountain Home, Idaho. Mash, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a 5%er because I'm not there in my life. I'm drinking Louis' Demise, which kind of sums up my morning because it's 8:30 in the morning here. I do wish I had a Bombshell beer. I've been to their brewery. My wife's from Holly Springs, that area, so I am excited to have them on. Gonna have to get our hands on some of that, and I'll have to get them to you guys as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great choice. Let's go check in with Lucky and see what his hair of the dog is this morning. Lucky, how's... We starting to feel a little bit more normal up there in Milwaukee?
Oh yeah, the best way to detox is to retox, right? So
yeah.
I'm also drinking Louis' Demise. It wasn't planned by me and Mash, but that's one that I sent out to you guys, and I, like I said, it was really good with the orange juice, but I'm just gonna polish it off and get something else working here. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, man. Let's go check in with Brew Witch there in Germany. I bet you she's drinking something spectacular.
I'm still working my way through These Boots Are Made for Working, the Pink Boots beer. It's actually great. It's an American wheat ale, which is a style I forget I'm very into until I have it. I just think it's just out of my brain at all times, and I try. It's this is great.
They're refreshing,
Yeah.
They're lovely, and this is the first time I've had one in probably months. So it's been a very pleasant surprise, but I'm almost done, and then I'm going to move on to, I picked a Helles because I thought it would go well with your beer school topic today.
Nice.
So it's Helles, not Hells?
I think it really depends. I think the style name technically is a Helles, but I think people I don't really know, to be honest, so let's not dwell on.
There's so many variations out there. It's just
I was just thinking. Well, Carli had mentioned, I always thought it was Yakima Valley, but I already forgot how she pronounced it. But I was like,
never
oh.
heard that loud before today, so like I genuinely had no idea. I think by the time we get to beer school, though, I'll have this beer finished. So I'm sorry in advance. I think I'm gonna boil through it before then.
Well, I probably will have my beer finished, and who knows how beer school will go then. So
yeah, after 13%, I'm sure it's gonna be a great time.
Awesome.
Hey,
And back here in Blowing Rock, I am enjoying a Simosa by
what is the sign?
Yeah, what is that?
A&B. It's a cider mimosa, dry hopped with an orange
I need
juice.
some of that in my next package. That
Man,
sounds amazing.
I would
what I would
you.
need right now this morning.
this thing is
some vitamin C.
Yeah, this thing is scary good out of Boone, North Carolina. I will definitely make sure that I get you guys some of that in the next package. And we'll go back to the view of all five of us again. Mash, real quick, if you can hit up Michelle just to see, maybe she's had a lapse. Maybe it was a rough night for her as well. But if you could just send her a message and let her know that we're ready, if we can get them on, that would be great. And that's Bombshell Beer Company, a women-owned brewery here in North Carolina as well. It would be great to hear from them.
I am in contact with her right now, letting her know. I have her number.
Awesome.
I am letting her know to call us right now, so she should be on any second. And yeah, I'm super stoked to have her on.
So don't forget, our bomber jacket giveaway is the Lego bomber jacket. Hit the donation button for Pink Boot Society. We are definitely going to work with them a little bit more because I like their cause. And it's a great cause to be a part of. So hit up that donation button, share us, like us, follow us, comment, get your neighbors, your friends, your family involved in the conversation this morning because it'll get good. Bitch Beer Podcast is going to be that's going to be an interesting guest. She has quite the resume, so we're looking forward to having her on here just shortly as well.
I mean, the name alone.
It's a really, really great place. Like that's one. So my wife's from Raleigh originally, and it's one of the places she was like, oh, there's this woman-owned brewery she'd always tell me about, and she was like, yeah, we're going to Bombshell. And it took us a couple times before we actually went, and they brew some really good stuff. I ran through. I can't even remember now. It's been a few years, but all their beers are fantastic, and the fact that they're all women-owned, like that's something you don't see a lot of. So it's really incredible what they're doing out there.
Yeah, the women-owned slant is pretty awesome, and to have Pink Boot Society doing what they're doing and creating those opportunities for young women in beer is speaks for itself. And that is an organization that I will tell you, they have a great mission in there. I mean, to buy 5 kilos of hops for a brewery in Germany.
Lot.
I mean,
how about that comment? That was awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing, and that's something we wouldn't have gotten without the viewers on there to be able to mention that and make sure that type of information gets out, because a lot of those organizations don't do well in tooting their own horn, right?
Yeah.
So it's
one of those things you don't want to sound like you're being too cocky about it, but it's like you have this amazing thing that you're doing, so it's get it out there, like what you do is truly amazing. So that's the only way you're gonna get is promote yourself, and
yep.
That's what I believe in.
Speaking of amazing,
everyone needs a little bit of Tony Stark in them.
Yep.
Nope, I didn't mean that dirty.
With the Morning Wood.
I wish.
Hey, can we get Hoppy Daddy on to talk to him real quick? Between Morning Wood and Tony Stark at a 13%, it's getting a little loose in Orlando, Florida already this morning. Now, speaking of amazing and women in beer, let's see if Michelle from Bombshell Beer Company here in North Carolina is on the line. Michelle, you there?
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
How's things going at Bombshell this morning?
Well, I am not there just yet, but I can only imagine they're going wonderful. We've definitely enjoyed the reopening here after COVID and seeing all of our familiar customers come back and, putting all the necessary measures into place so that we can serve our customers safely and keep our employees safe as well. So we're having some great days. We're very excited.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I know the North Carolina has been tough. I'll give a little bit of background. North Carolina has been tough for breweries and bars, and that the governor is this dude is something else. He's pretty much locked these companies down, and in some of his recent press conferences, it's sounded like he might pull back a little bit more again. So I definitely appreciate that aspect and can understand some of the struggles that's been around that. So tell us, Michelle, first tell us about your start in the beer company or beer industry and how you got your foot in the door, and then we'll kind of go into Bombshell from there.
All right. Well, thanks so much. So I actually grew up in the state of Maine, and I was exposed to craft beer in the early 80s. Actually remember, going into Vermont as well during the mid-90s. So I've had a pretty long exposure to craft beer in my lifetime. And so I met this friend while I was living here in Holly Springs, and she was a home brewer, and she was a golfer, and she was a professional individual, and we had a lot in common as I did all of those same things. I didn't actually homebrew at that time, but I did have a fond love of craft beer. And we always would talk about getting, out of corporate America and really going into something that we had passion and love for, because when you do those types of things, typically you tend up being, successful and happy. And, we were really looking for what was that right entrepreneurial opportunity. And one day when we weren't golfing, what we would often do either after golf or when it was raining with golf, when we were playing golf, is we would go to local microbreweries or bars that had more craft beer on tap. And we'd have a few pints and chit chat and all this other stuff. So one day, after going around to a couple of breweries, I looked at her and I said, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that we have not contemplated opening up our own microbrewery. You've been a home brewer now for 10 years. We both love craft beer, and kind of from all of the interactions that we've had with craft beer, there are like virtually no women that are involved in this." And this was back in 2010. And literally, I mean, there were just small handfuls. That number, since has, quadrupled probably in my best estimation. But when we started looking at opening our brewery, we really did a lot of research because we wanted to be a 100% women-owned microbrewery. We could only find 4 of those in the United States. So hopefully that has changed somewhat, but not as much as we would like. And we hope more people, more women, do what they can. There are a lot of breweries that are majority women-owned, but not 100% women-owned.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting when I read that fact on your website. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Bombshell Beer Company then. What is it that you guys do? What's your styles? What are you known for in your local community?
So in our local community, Holly Springs is a town of about 30,000. We're really known as kind of like the family place to come. And when I say family, not just in the sense of, mom, dad, and the kids. I mean, if you come into our tap room, you have, a relationship with our beer tenders and, our brewer and many of us owners. So, in our local community, we're very spirited in that sense. We also do a lot of public fundraising. When we could gather, we would have every other Friday were what we call fundraiser Fridays, where we give 15% of beer sales for the evening back to a local cause or a local charity. So from a taproom standpoint, we are also known as a brewery that really gives back to the community. And there are many. It's not necessarily something that we're doing that's drastically different than other breweries in the area. It's just something that I think we really latch on to and we feel spirited about. And that was a personal decision of both myself and my other founders, because when we were in corporate America, we could never make localized community investment decisions. was always done at, a higher corporate level, and being able to be more grassroots and see impact and effect, at this very near and dear place to us is a great thing.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people even realize too, Holly Springs, it's really kind of exploded as a community. You guys have brought there's a lot of new businesses going in there, and a lot of people are kind of flocking to that Cary, Raleigh, Holly Springs area. I used to go to the Apex all the time, and even that in the last few years has really exploded, which is probably bringing a lot of good business to you guys, I imagine, as well.
Yes. Great opportunities. People are always looking for private event venue space. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of that, and that's actually been, prior to COVID, that was like one of our number one priorities, was looking at how are we going to expand our tap room or look for an alternative tap room in the area, because literally we turn down at least 4 or 5 requests for private event space almost every single week. So we want to get more connected with the community through that aspect as well.
So was it something, I know a lot of different breweries are kind of experiencing that, like this COVID, man, it hit at the worst possible time, especially for breweries, because the ones we've talked to, they're like, yeah, we were going to expand in the spring and we've had to put that on hold. So is that kind of the same boat for you guys? Obviously, you're looking to expand, and now it's like, well, we're not sure because we can't, nobody's even coming in necessarily. How are you guys kind of navigating that?
Well, thanks. And you are spot on. It is something, like I said, that we had planned, and now we totally put that on, a back burner. And, personally, we just don't feel comfortable looking at those types of expansion options until we know what is going to happen, with this virus, because as you mentioned, earlier, we're actually starting to see some increases here in the state of North Carolina. And there is a potential for us to go back into shelter in place, which, obviously would decimate any type of on-premise beer sales that we currently are experiencing. But, that's, in terms of COVID, we did a total, 180-degree pivot in our business where, the day after we got shelter in place, we switched to a delivery and a to-go beer model, did all of the online marketing presence in that factor. And, even though shelter in place has been modified since the beginning of June, we actually have sustained most of our to-go and our delivery business, in addition to our on-premise customers coming back. So that's been very, very positive for us. And we're just really pleased because there are some people that are in high-risk categories, and they have told us, how cool it is that they can have beer brought to their homes and still feel safe, and, get a little bit of their lives back, to maybe having a cold beer.
I know nothing beats, having a nice cold beer in the tap room itself. I know all of us can speak for that. So I hope that the to-go models and the curbside pickups, I hope that's kind of something that, we see more of sustaining, like even after this whole business. Like I think the to-go model is a untapped market potentially. A lot of these breweries are doing it, and I think they're having a lot of success. Is that something you guys are going to try to hopefully keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. That is our goal. And I think the other thing too is just that consumer, the typical craft beer consumer tends to want to support local. And I think this is really just an extension of being able to function, supporting local by getting either to go more prominently or having it delivered to their house. And, the other thing too is from a freshness standpoint, you're ensured of the very best freshness in that delivery model. And, we as a very small brewery, any of our beer that's on premise tends to be less than 3 months old. And many of our styles we're turning in 4 to 6 weeks, and some even shorter than that. So there is nothing like fresh craft beer, and getting it directly from the brewery really helps to ensure that that's the best. You're getting the freshest beer possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we've got another viewer that's chiming in with a question, which is awesome. If you have any questions at all for us or guests, to make sure you post them. Just a reminder, we've got the Pink Boot Society donation button set up there. Organizations just like the Bombshell Beer Company is what the Pink Boot Society is striving for. A fully women-owned brewery here in North Carolina doing amazing work. So we've got a question. How does Michelle's background in pharmaceuticals contribute to brewing science? Michelle, is there a cross there for you?
Well, I will be very upfront. I do not have a lot of not so much interaction, but hands-on with the brew team. My business partner, Ellen, manages the production and works very closely with our awesome head brewer, Devin Singley. But, if anybody has homebrewed, or those of you that have brewing experience, there's a ton of chemistry in in brewing science. So, definitely having knowledge in, molecular areas helps you better understand the complexities and the nuances of, good and effective brewing. So, yeah, hope that answers your question. I also have in a sales background, so I manage most of the sales componentry of the brewery.
Yeah, I was going to say, knowing that the pharmaceutical end of it, you probably don't take no for an answer. I would imagine places that you walk into with a case of beer to sell end up buying a case of beer. So I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I tried home brewing, and the only scientific result I got was explosions. I mean, apparently I over CO2'd it or put too much sugar in it. I don't know what, but I lost a growler, and the one that survived exploded as soon as I opened it.
Oh my goodness! I remember my house actually used to be the brewery, and it's kind of a funny story because we have basically a 27-gallon brew sculpture inline system. And we used to set that up in my driveway, and my neighbors would drive by, and they were wondering what the hell these women were doing in the driveway all the time.
It's like, what kind of neighborhood did I drive through? Oh, my God.
Yeah, but once they find out, I bet they come around for free beer.
Oh, I know. They're like, hey.
And then putting hoses, in North Carolina, our groundwater's pretty warm during the summer months, but we would run, ice baths in addition to our chillers, and I'd have a hose coming inside, out from the outside of my house, in through one of the windows to get our chillers operating properly to cool down our wort. So just some funny stories. And I had a room that was full of 6 chest freezers, and that was on the second story. So I was the one that was hauling all of the 5-gallon buckets of wort after, we had pitched our yeast and brought them upstairs and, set everything up for fermentation. So fun stuff there. I actually miss those days.
You start talking about him like, man, at the time, this is brutal. I'm like, well, how did I get stuck running up and down these stairs? But now it's just like, it was all worth it at the end.
Yeah. Ellen was always the one. She would design most of the recipes, and then I was the one doing all of the cleaning and sanitation, and she was doing all of the directing. I was like the Sue brewer, in the chef's kitchen.
That's awesome. So one question that we always ask all of our brewery representatives: if the 5 of us now were to belly up at the bar, what's the first one you're going to pour for us?
I would probably pour Our Lady in Red Amber Ale.
And I've had that one.
If we have barrel aged on tap, it's probably going to be that one. We actually won bourbon barrel aged. Let me specify that. We won a bronze medal at GABF this year with that particular beer, and it's just a really it's a little bit more hop forward than a lot of ambers. But it's smooth. Devin, our head brewer, has a German brewing background. He's actually married to a German individual. And, he just really loves to brew in that lager, in that space. It's not a lager, it's an ale, excuse me. But at any rate, it's all German hops and German malt. So it's a really nice beer. It's won the most awards for us in, beer competitions. And I think it's just, representative of what we do in general. You earlier had asked me about different beer styles. We tend to do more middle of the road. That was one of the founding principles when we started the brewery, was to really look at making craft beer that was approachable to a lot of individuals. Whether it be a really nice, easy drinking lager or easy drinking ale, so that, more people could expand and start enjoying craft beer. And of course, when we started the brewery in 2011, when we, conceptualized the business, craft beer didn't have the share that it had now. And, a lot of times people that were, the domestic beer drinkers would often, be out someplace and they would say, "What are you drinking?" And somebody would say, "Oh, I'm drinking craft beer." And they're like, "Well, let me try it." And then they would try it and they were like, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" And of course that individual is drinking most likely some type of an IPA. And that was someone's first introduction to craft beer, which is, "Ooh, I don't like that." And we wanted to, change that mindset.
For sure. Yeah. That's like, you mentioned you grew up a little bit in Maine there. And I know when I was growing up, I'm from the same area growing up, you had Sam Adams, you had like your Bud Lights and all that kind of stuff. So when I started drinking, that's what I was accustomed to. And then out of nowhere, it just kind of exploded, it seemed. And it's like there's a new place popping up every 5 minutes. And that's not even a bad thing. Like, too many options in this case is a great thing to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we have Carolina Brewing here in Holly Springs as well, and we're great friends with them. A lot of times if we're short ingredients, we borrow from each other. They're the guys over there are super helpful. I mean, they're just one of the owners, is very knowledgeable in plumbing, and he's come over at points and times on the weekends, and we can speed dial him. He's at our brewery in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Their Carolina Blonde is really good too. There, I've had that, but that's pretty cool. Like, I brew beer, but hey, plumbing. I need, it's just that tight knit community that you love to see.
Yeah, trying to find any plumber nowadays is a challenge. Trying to find a plumber for a brewery, I can imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome, Michelle. This is Michelle from Bombshell Beer Company, one of the owners of a all women's owned brewery, on the phone with us. Michelle, we definitely appreciate your time this early Sunday morning here in North Carolina. What is one thing that we haven't asked, or that you hope to get the message out about what you and Bombshell Beer Company are doing?
Well, again, I think one of my big asks for the people that are listening is support local. It really does make a difference. When we started with Bombshell, there were 3 owners, our brewer, and a bartender, a couple of bartenders, and we've since grown our business to 18 employees. And that's because people support us and they choose to buy our beer. So it makes a difference. And, in turn, most breweries have that commitment to give back to the community in, different ways. And we do a lot of that through charitable donations. So, stay local, buy local. And, I think that's my big ask. And if you can make it Bombshell, then hey, great. Cheers to you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is kind of that's our mission here on Hops News. Philanthropy through beer, and buying local is definitely a big part of that here. So we appreciate those type of efforts. And speaking of giving back, Pink Boot Society is the donation button. Go ahead and hit that up. Be entered for the drawing of the awesome Legos bomber jacket. It's the only way you're going to get entered. That's kind of neat how we do that. Anyways,
I like how that changed.
I do like how we transitioned into that. That's a
good idea. It's pretty awesome.
Right. It used to be, how are we going to give this away? I don't know.
Yep. Now we've got you got to give to receive it, which is pretty cool in of itself, especially if you're donating to the Pink Boot Society. But if you're in the distribution footprint of Bombshell Brewing, pick up some of their beer. Michelle, is that beer that you mentioned pouring us when we belly up to the bar, is that available in packages?
So we have had our bourbon barrel Lady in Red in 16-ounce cans. We are currently out of stock shipping it, but there may be a few locations that have purchased it where it's still available. And you'll find it mostly in some of our local specialty bottle shops, and as well as some Lowe's Foods grocery stores.
Awesome. Yes. Well, I'm definitely going to be on a mission to find some.
Up some, send them out this way.
Yeah, I have friends up there. I'm thinking the same thing.
We're going to have to be on a mission to find some to get it in our hands.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks so much for having me. And have a great day, everybody.
Hey, yeah, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate you. Cheers. Yep. Cheers. You have a great day as well. Thank you. Another great call.
That was awesome.
Hoppy Hour, International Hoppy Hour. I'm telling you right now, if you're on the Thursday night crowd and you're not watching today, you're missing a hell of a show. Some great.
We've got some really great guests today. A lot of good insight.
Yep, some great guests on the line. Some great insight. Let's go around the world, check in with our beer drinker officials. Let's start out with Hoppy this time down in Orlando. Hoppy, you still drinking on the Morning Wood?
I'm still drinking on the Morning Wood.
I'm still sipping the Morning Wood.
This is the last of it. And then I have an orange juice IPA that's on deck to kind of wash down the coffee. But yes, I'm still drinking it. It's 13%. I'm more buzzed right now than I am at the end of our Thursday night Hoppy Hours.
Yeah, I've got to give you credit. You come out swinging today.
It's Sunday morning. She's like, it's Sunday, baby. Let's go.
Sunday fun day, mother. Yeah, no. Well, all the really good coffee beers are such high ABV, and I love them. And I figure, well, I got plenty of time to sober up, so I don't feel like garbage tomorrow. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's awesome. You definitely come out swinging today, and I appreciate your spirit down there. And I hope Happy Daddy's not drinking this morning, because it sounds like he might have to babysit one more before this afternoon hits.
No, I'm in the middle of the house. My bar area is like, there's the living rooms right there, and so I just see them walk by. I've seen him carry the naked 3-year-old over where he has his work clothes on. I don't know what's going on.
It's just like, keep drinking, have fun over there. Meanwhile, he's like covered in mess. Like, what have I gotten myself into?
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and the 16-year-old's already come over trying to talk to me, and I'm like, I can't talk to you. I'm live. Figure it out. Go
just
talk
take
to Dad.
your car keys and go, damn it. I don't care where.
Yeah. Well, let's go out to Idaho and check in with Mash. Mash, what's the drink of choice out there now? We've had some great guests on, so I'm sure you've transitioned a time or two.
I normally by now I'm about 3 deep on a Thursday, and I'm powering through. I'm struggling, but I'm starting to feel better. I'm waking up a little bit, and I'm about to crack open a nice Yellowstone Golden Ale from Yellowstone itself, Lewis and Clark Brewery. There's a lot of beers that I picked up when I was at Yellowstone that are only specifically made and sold in the park. So I'm kind of a hoarder in the sense I don't like to crack open beers I can only get certain places, but I'm really excited to try this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that statement, on 2 statements you made. Yellowstone, you sent one of their Lewis and Clark beers before to me, and I had it, and it was phenomenal. 2, I'm kind of a hoarder on beers. I've got a refrigerator that's got beer in it that I'm like, every time I open it, I'm like, that's the last one.
I try to just drink like the Idaho ones first because I know I can give them any time. My wife's like, you're buying more beer. I'm like, yeah. She goes, what's with all the stuff in the fridge? I'm like, but you don't understand. I can only get that from like certain places, certain people if I go there, or my friends. So I try to really hoard and hold on to that, and I shed a tear every time I crack into one I can't get every day.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't hoard. I just when I went to go grab this beer, a Pliny accidentally fell out, and I was like, or I actually pulled out a Pliny. I was like, I should just drink this now. But I have to share it with my husband.
See, that would have to stay in the refrigerator for a while, and I know it's not good for that style of beer, but man, I get to the point where I'm like, that's the last one.
Exactly.
It's tough for me to open it. I've got some Sip of Sunshine.
You gotta
and
drink it fresh.
Heady Topper like that as well. All right, let's go check in with Luckman, make sure he's still Lucky. How are things going to Milwaukee? Is that hair of the dog kicking in?
Oh yeah. I'm feeling good now. I think I'm getting drunk. It's a lot easier to get drunk when you've been hungover for like 3 days straight. So it's starting to kick in. I've got one that Mash sent, a Norfolk Lager. Is that what it's called?
Yep, from
And,
Pyatt Brewing.
From Pyatt Brewing. It's really good. I'm liking it a lot. But yeah, I'm starting to wake up a little bit here.
So you're having the North Fork Lager? Is that what it is? North Fork? North Fork Lager. That's interesting because I had the South Fork Grapefruit Goza from Boonshine last night in our little preview video that I did, and it was pretty spectacular. How's that lager treating you this morning?
It's really good. It's really refreshing. I'm liking it a lot. So
they make really good river beers because they a lot of their owner and all that, they're big onto the river scene, whitewater rafting, which you can do out here. So they make a lot of good river beers. Just floating out for the day.
Yep, definitely. This is something that I would want to drink when I'm like near the water or something.
Yeah,
like a boat beer.
Yeah. Yep.
So you guys have good whitewater rafting up there? So
we do. This whole state is basically mountains, so there's a ton of hiking and whitewater rafting that goes on. And through my work, you can go for like dirt cheap. So if you guys ever come out, I can get us on a one for next to nothing, and we'd spend the whole day on the river. And it's something I'm dying to do myself.
That water's got to be ice cold, though.
It does get cold, but you know what? It's worth it because the scenery, I got to say, I never expected much out of Idaho, but the views that you can see from the mountains and the rivers here you got to see it once in your life.
All right. Well, let's go check out Germany first with Brew Witch. Brew Witch, what are we sipping on there?
So I am just finishing up my Helles from Frau Gruber. They're continually rated one of the best breweries in Germany. So like whenever I'm back that way, I'll send you guys some because they are phenomenal. And like this Helles itself is a bit more like oaty, earthy than most Helleses. So I'm very pleased with it. It's not what I thought it would be. I'm very pleased.
So I'm just wondering if I'm wondering if we back up a flat or a container to your flat there in Germany, if you wouldn't mind just loading it up with good German beer and sending it this way.
She flies back to America next time with just 2 suitcases full of beer to ship out, and then she has like a little backpack full of clothes. That's it.
Does bad German beer even exist? Is there such a thing?
Mm-mm.
I mean, I feel like not in my book, but I genuinely will drink most things. Like I don't think like I really like good beer, but I also have no problem with bad beer. So like I think my window is quite wide.
So
I quite like. There's been times when I go back to the States with like a giant suitcase of beer, and usually what I do is I bring big wool socks and I pack all the bottles and cans in that. But I've had times when I go back to summer, I bring loads of beers back, and then I just have like 30 pairs of woolen socks.
They check your bag. They're like, why are there so many socks in here? What is going on?
Oh, because Germans, though, all their beer's in bottles.
Yeah.
Like, so that's harder to bring home.
I will say that I'm thrilled because in like the last handful of months, I've seen a very slow shift from bottles to cans here, and I'm elated. I'm so happy, but it's slowly going in the can direction. Yeah. I feel like in a year, it's going to be such a different world. That's
good because I'm surprised Germany's not already in the can game big time because, cans are so easily recyclable more so than bottles that you think, I know that Germany's all about renewable energy and a lot of things like that. So I'm kind of surprised they haven't already switched to a large can market.
I think it goes into your lesson you're going to get in a little bit. It's all about tradition when it comes to beer. Yeah, see how I did that?
Tradition. Did you just segue accidentally on purpose?
No, I'm not doing anything on purpose right now.
So having a bad German beer is kind of like going to the Vatican and having a bad service, right? It just doesn't happen. I mean, it's a German product that's doing phenomenal. So we'll come back here to me and Blowing Rock. I cracked open this Pisgah blueberry wheat.
Amazing.
Allagash, though.
That I will tell you.
Yes.
Pisgah blueberry wheat. As soon as I opened it, I'm like blueberry pancakes, and it didn't disappoint. Wow. It is an amazing beer. Pisgah does some amazing things. When we do our Asheville beer hop snooze, beer crawl, whatever it may be, Pisgah will be on that list because they have they do an amazing beer and have a great facility. Typically in non-pandemic times, have an amazing music lineup. So we'll definitely check that out. We'll come back to the main view here, and I think we're going to have a couple of our hosts that are going to fanboy out here in a minute. When we bring on let's see if Caroline's on the phone. Caroline, are you there?
I'm very excited about this.
Oh, hey, how are y'all doing?
Uh-oh.
Hey.
Yeah, I knew this was going to happen. We've got a couple of hosts on this end. They're definitely excited to have you on the show, so we appreciate you joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Hey. Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
Yep, I think didn't we have a couple, who was it that was set up? Was it Hoppy? Did you have something in store or in the schedule that you were going to be at the same location or something like that?
Oh, I believe so. Weren't you going to be at the Femme Ale Beer Fest?
I was trying to, yes. Oh, that would have been so much fun.
I think we had like a brief conversation on some other rant. I follow like all the beer pages I can on some other beer thing. And you're like, oh, when I'm there, I'm going to ask you questions. And I was like, yes, this is going to be amazing. And obviously that never happened. And I still have my ticket.
God damn it.
Yeah, it was super fun. I was looking forward to meeting all these, female podcasters and brewers and, beer education people. And I hope it still happens. I mean, they haven't canceled it. They just indefinitely postponed it.
Canceled, unofficially canceled.
Like with the Dames and Dregs that we have here in Atlanta, because I was hosting again this year, and I'm on the board for it this year as well. We were set for August 11th, but we ended up canceling and postponing to next spring. So just to keep it safe, because honestly, we don't know what's going to happen. So we just figured better safe than sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they said they were going to probably reschedule it in September, but I'm wondering at this point if you bought a ticket last year, it's going to be good for next year. Because with South Florida, I don't really see them doing a beer festival in a few months.
Yeah. It's just a weird time. So we'll see what happens. I hope that I hope it does happen because I'd love to go down there.
Yeah.
So we have Carolyn King from Bitch Beer Podcast that has joined us. Carolyn, we appreciate your time this morning, and tell us how you kind of got started with this podcast. What was the start of Bitch Beer Podcast?
Yeah, so I started, it was about 2.5 years ago. I have always enjoyed beer and liked drinking beer, but I didn't know really anything about beer because the craft beer scene was really popping off here in Atlanta, and I enjoyed going to breweries, but I always just kind of felt like out of place, or I just, it would just be overwhelming when I would go into a bottle shop because there would be so many shelves just taken up by beer that I had no idea what it was. So I started doing research, and a lot of stuff was just kind of done by dudes, which no offense to guys or anything like that, but I just didn't really feel anything speaking to me when I was trying to learn about beer. And then I would post in beer forums, like, I remember I was so excited because I was like, oh, this is a popular beer. And it was like Bell's Hop Slam. And I posted in our beer forum on Facebook. And then within like an hour, I had like 80 comments by beer trolls that were like, more like Hype Slam. And I was like, wait, I thought this was good.
You get those dudes that are like, well, actually, it's this. And, like,
and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I was just like, it was just, so anyways, I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go on my own journey, figure this out, and then decided to do a podcast where I interviewed women in the beer industry. And because I started learning that there were so many women in the beer industry, it was becoming so much more diverse, and especially because right when I started the podcast is right when the law changed here in Georgia, where you could actually consume the beer on the premises and buy the beer on the premises.
Ooh.
So that was a huge game changer. So all of these breweries were popping up and tap rooms and brew pubs, and it was really, really just perfect timing. Happy accident because it was not intentional. But yeah, so I just started my journey learning about beer through the women who brew it and make it, and then just kind of expanded into now I just interview like a lot of different people, and it's just been an incredible time. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a great start to it for sure. And obviously, women in beer, as everybody knows, and as we've kind of talked about here, it can be a little bit intimidating to take that plunge. But very happy that you fought through it and continue to do what it is that you're doing. So if we tune into, if one of us or one of the viewers turn into Bitch Beer Podcast, what can we expect? What is your theme? What is your genre? What is it that you kind of, what's your mission?
Yeah, so my mission is to make the world of craft beer more friendly for people who don't really know about craft beer. So I want everybody that listens to feel like they are in a safe place to ask questions. There have been plenty of times on the episodes when I have asked very stupid questions, and it's the perfect place to do it. So I don't want people to feel like there are any stupid questions. I want people to feel like they have a community. I've had a lot of people reaching out to me saying that they ended up starting a beer girl group in their area because they saw the beer girl group that I was going to, and it's really cool to see that. And then also, if people enjoy craft beer, just to explore it. If you're kind of afraid to try something, ask questions. Go to your local brewery to, just try and figure out what's going to be right for you. So, just teaching people to just dive on into craft beer, because just because you had a bad IPA at some place, it doesn't mean that the place near you is going to be bad either. So it's to try different things.
It's like that's how it always gets me too. Somebody's got to start somewhere. Whether it be, no one is born an expert, so it's one of those things. It's like, well, why are you getting mad that we're asking these questions? We should be able to ask these questions. You should be excited to share your knowledge. So that's really great that you're just like, come on in. There's no stupid question, and let's all learn about this together, kind of deal.
Yeah, everybody loves such different beer.
Yeah, bring your knowledge instead of talking down. Like, let's expand our knowledge. Let's work together on that.
Exactly, and that's a big thing for me is, y'all said it perfectly, that everybody enjoys beer differently. Just because a beer, tastes amazing to me doesn't mean it's going to taste great for somebody else. It's so culinary, and it's actually why I don't have an Untappd, because I don't rate beers. It's not something I do. If I don't like a beer, I don't talk about it, because
that's a good idea.
Not fair to the brewery.
Well,
I'm sorry. What was that?
I'm sorry. I know I agree with you with Untappd. What I've actually started doing, and I learned this, I was listening to What Ails Ya podcast in Orlando, and they were talking about how a lot of the brewers are bothered by how people rate the beers on Untappd. So what I do now, I try to rate it per that style. And if it's a style I don't feel like I like enough to adequately rate, I won't rate it, but I'll check it in because I love going back and seeing where I had beers. Somebody would be like, oh, have you had this beer before? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know where I got it. And I'll look it up and I'll be like, oh, I got it from Tavor. Or, oh, I was Total Winer. I got it at this brewery. So I love having that arsenal of, being able to look back on my own, reference points for beers. But I try to rate them more appropriately now, not just like, oh, I don't like sour, so I'm giving you a 2, because that's not fair. It may be an amazing sour.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a really good point. And that's one thing, because I do my beer journal on my website, but keeping up with it's so much easier to just do on Untappd. So, that's a good thing to just kind of like keep a journal of what you've had. And I actually interviewed the head brewer of Monday Night Brewing, Peter Carli, for an article that I did for craftbeer.com last year. And he talked about Untappd perfectly. He said, there's plenty of times when there's beer trolls that are just be like, oh, well, I don't like sours, 1 star. He goes, but to ignore Untappd reviews is really missing the point, because they need to, the reviews are important to them, but also taking them with a grain of salt too. So as a consumer on Untappd, really just being able to look at those reviews and seeing why people gave it a bad review versus being like, oh, this one only has 3 stars, so maybe I shouldn't try this one. Maybe just kind of dive into like why certain beers were rated that way. And I thought that was a really good point for him to make.
A lot of people, I feel like, who rate things are just like, oh, I don't like it, so it's automatically trash. Where it's like, well, no, like, give us a good reason at least. Me, it's like, if I don't like something, I gotta find an actual legitimate reason versus just like, nope, it's obviously bad. Nobody should try it because I personally didn't like it.
Right. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie though, I do use Untappd ratings when I travel, because it's like if I have, I had 2 days in San Diego and I took in all the recommendations from all the places I could get, and then I looked at Untappd ratings because they are pretty consistent oftentimes with how that beer is. But yeah, you have those trolls. Yeah. And I try not to be those trolls by any means. But if you scroll down to my, first handful of check-ins in 2014 or something, the first time I had a sour, I think I gave it a 1 and it said, what the F is this?
Look, I don't even like sours, but I'll still rate them high just because I'm like, I don't like them, but I know people do.
Right. Well, like I had a Jester King sour the other day, and I rated that appropriately because even though it's not my go-to style, it was damn good for what it was. And so I've learned and adapted, but most people going into Untapped, they're just like, oh, I'm going to get as many beers as I can. So.
Excuse me, this only have 2 different variations of hops.
Right.
Yeah, so we have Carolyn King on, host of Bitch Beer Podcast, has graciously joined us for our episode of the International Hops News here, and she is very much a supporter and a fan of women in beer.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, we've got that donate button set up here for Pink Boot Society for the bomber jacket. I will tell you, I'm a little bit disappointed in the giving so far, so if you could drop some change in that bucket, they would very much appreciate it. So, Carolyn.
Can you send me the link? Yeah, can you send me the link for that, please, so I can I'll share it on my page too.
Yeah, let's.
Oh hell yeah!
Can one of you? Yeah, let me see. So I will try to share. Yep, I will try to. One of you guys take over here, and I'll share her the link in the chat,
for sure.
And we'll get it going.
Sorry, I just have a question. You've been doing the podcast for about 2 years or so, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so you're mainly talking with lots of female brewers, and for these women in brewing and beer, do you think a lot has changed for them in that community and how they're perceived? Have you seen a big change or a trajectory?
I have. I've seen a really big change. Women are becoming brewers. They are really kind of taking over the workplace, which I think is amazing. It's becoming a lot more diverse. It's even things like I went to a small brewery here in Atlanta, and it was 2 guys. They started it together, and then they finally get a tap room manager who's a female, and she comes in. She's like, "Hey guys, we need to get tampons for the ladies' room," and they're like, "Oh." Oh, okay. And it wasn't that they didn't want to have those in the ladies' room. They literally didn't think about it. And so just having a place, being in the room, having a seat at the table is really important for women. And I've had other women reach out to me. There was one woman, she was working for a really big company doing social media, and every single day she would stop at her local brewery on her way home. And she, after listening to our podcast and hearing, we did a social media roundtable with several different breweries, head of social media, and she's like, I didn't even know that was an option at breweries. So when the next time she was at her local brewery, she asked them if they needed someone for social media, and they hired her. So she was able to quit her big corporate job and work at her local brewery, and now she loves it. So it's, just really being able to ask the questions, go on out there. But another thing, we went to one of my episodes, and this is when my co-host Ashley was still on. She ended up quitting about a year and a half ago. We're still friends and everything, of course. But we went to Terrapin, and they wanted, they were like, okay, just come on up. And I go, yeah, do you have any women on your brew staff? He goes, yeah, we have about 13, including their head brewer. And I was like, wow. And we had all women, and we even had one of the women, she was so stinking cute. She was 20 years old, couldn't even legally consume alcohol. And she had just graduated, or she was just about to graduate in brewery sciences. And it was her first day. And it was a really beautiful episode because one of the questions that I asked everybody was, okay, so this is your first day. Ladies, what advice do you give to her for, moving forward, how to kind of make it in the industry as a woman? And it was amazing. And also one thing I've learned is we don't actually, it's progressed so far that it's actually not appropriate for me to ask women, what is your experience like as a woman in beer? Because now it's just it's just commonplace. So I love that it's evolved to where I don't have to ask that question anymore. But it's still great to share everybody's experiences. It's great to see the change that has happened. There's still a long way to go, but from what I've seen, it's changed so much in such a positive way.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And we're gonna give Carolyn a break just for a second so she can share the link that I sent her there. So let's go around and kind of get the comments from the crew here so far on the conversation, and any follow-up that you may have for Carolyn. Carolyn, don't feel obligated to answer right away. Kind of tuck it in the back of your mind while you're sharing the link. But let's go check in with Mash out in Idaho. Mash, what do you have for Carolyn when we get her back on here?
Yeah, first of all, as you know, I was talking to the guys, and I know that you're big into hate watching The Bachelor, much like I am. So Pilot Pete was trash. I need your thoughts.
Link is
we
in
need
my
to do
bio,
like
everybody.
a live Bachelor episode whenever it does come back, I feel like. But in addition to that, like, I noticed you are a filmmaker as well. Can you talk a little bit about your filmmaking?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out, I moved to Chicago when I was 19. And worked with Second City and Improv Olympic up there, did a lot of sketch and improv, and moved around a lot, and then settled in Atlanta about 4.5 years ago. And then, just to start my filmmaking journey. I'm a comedy writer by background. My first film that I did is called Church Wives, which is actually about to be available on YouTube. We finished our festival run. So Church Wives is like Real Housewives, but with church wives. It's a comedy mockumentary, and we had such a great experience with it. We filmed it all in Atlanta, all Atlanta locations, all Atlanta crew, and then we toured the film festival circuit for about a year and a half. I'm so proud of our entire team. We did a really great job with it, and then from there, just kind of met my network of people, and then ended up having such a great time at film festivals that I ended up starting my own film festivals here in Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
And so I started about a year and a half ago, started my festivals here, and now I have 7 of them. So
7, wow.
It's been really great. I'm very passionate about filmmaking, but also creating an opportunity for filmmakers, because indie film is such an important lifeblood of everything that we do. You know, right now, especially during the pandemic, everybody's turning to artists right now. We're all turning to Netflix, streaming services. Quibi has blown up ever since the pandemic. And so being able to be in a place where we can support our independent filmmakers, because really you don't need these big budgets to do a good film. And that's what I was seeing when I was going to these smaller film festivals. You would see these beautiful films, amazing films, hilarious films that weren't getting into the bigger film festivals. They didn't really have a place. So being able to create the smaller festivals has been incredibly rewarding to me, because giving a space for these filmmakers to be seen and heard. And, you know, we've gotten to a point now where we have, you know, CBS, we have Netflix, we have Roku, we have all these people coming to our festivals.
Everybody's got a streaming service,
Yeah, and they come to our festivals looking for talent now, because they've seen that the big festivals are great. You know, I'm not talking down about any large festival. It's just, you know, as a festival director, you only have so much time to screen so many films. So you can only, when you get thousands and thousands of submissions, sometimes you're turning down 9 out of 10 star ratings. So it's, you know, so being able to be the smaller festivals has been really rewarding as well, because we still get those great films that otherwise would have been looked over at other festivals.
For sure. And it's easy to go out and make a massive blockbuster. Like, I still love my Marvel movies. I still love my Star Wars. But a lot of people don't realize you don't need all that to make a great film. Like, one of my favorite filmmakers, Kevin Smith, he started off on the indie scene, and he makes a lot of self-budgeted kind of things. And it's it's all about the story and things like that. And a lot of people often in the bigger markets tend to forget about that. So it's really great what the indie films and a lot of indie filmmakers are doing is they're back to their roots, essentially.
Exactly. And you know what? I love my Avengers, and I love, Thor is a craft beer drinker. He drinks Creature Comfort.
Was that beer that was in Endgame? Because they said there was a Georgia beer in Endgame, and I didn't know which one specifically it was.
That's what it was, yes.
Because I know they do a lot of filming near that Sonoy, Atlanta area.
They film in Atlanta, yep.
Yeah.
And it was actually Paul Rudd. So when I interview them on the podcast, they actually talk about it, but Paul Rudd was the one that came up to the tap room, and he had Creature Comforts with Dina, and he also had Tropicalia. He's like, oh, this is good. And then he brought
Nice.
some.
Paul
He
Rudd.
came in and
We don't
bought,
deserve
like, a whole
Paul
case
Rudd,
of
first of all. I love that
I
man.
know.
We
He's
don't
just like
deserve
America's
him.
sweetheart.
He's too good for us.
I just want to
yeah,
say he
really
started
is.
his fame on Clueless.
He did. He
He is
did.
That
amazing.
He hasn't
needs to
aged a
be
day
more
since,
recognized.
but, you know.
He really, that's the thing. I was actually just talking about that. I was like, because the promos for Clueless keep coming up on Netflix, and I was like, Paul Rudd has not aged, so I'm pretty sure he's actually a vampire. So
He's a
that's,
vampire,
I
time
mean-
traveler. I don't know. He really did figure out time traveling, and somehow this man he's as beautiful as the day. You know, he's not aged a day. And people talk about Tom Cruise not aging. You're forgetting my man Paul.
Yeah, Paul Rudd's
No,
way
Tom
more
Cruise-
better, or way better than Tom
Yeah.
Cruise.
yeah, Tom Cruise is a Scientology robot. He's not a human being.
Yes.
I can't.
I
can't.
could talk for hours about that. Yes.
Although I will say I am incredibly excited for Top Gun 2, not going to lie.
Oh my God, who isn't ready for some more Danger Zone? Like, come on.
I know.
If we get more shirtless volleyball scenes, now, God damn it, I'm here.
I didn't even know that was happening. We're having a Top Gun 2.
It was supposed to have been coming
Yeah.
out soon, but it got pushed back. Oh, there's a Top Gun 2 all right.
All right then.
Make sure you pour one out for my man Goose after of this, all right? But yeah, Top Gun 2 is happening.
All right, I guess I
I'm
gotta
excited.
make the 16-year-old watch the first one so we can watch the second one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure my kids watch all the classics because I don't want
Yeah.
them growing up and being like, "What are you talking about, a DeLorean? I don't know what you're saying." So I'm not going to be my mom.
Cultured swine.
Oh my
Exactly.
God. I
They
know,
got
right?
rid of
Well,
the
I
Back
think,
to the Future ride at Universal because kids didn't know what it was. My kids know what it is.
okay, that's just bad parenting. That's just bad parenting.
That's
I feel like
exactly what I said, verbatim.
God damn it. People complain about their kids watching too much TV, but are they even watching the right TV?
Or
Come on.
E.T. I need to hit the 7-year-old.
Like,
She's ready to watch
jeez.
E.T. We need to get that going.
Yes.
I need to buy some Reese's Pieces and put on E.T. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad. The classics are getting forgotten. We could do a whole episode on Kevin Smith too. I feel like.
Yes.
I know, right?
Like,
Danger Zone. Yes, it's playing. Yeah, I like
There we
Top Gun.
go.
I have to say, Top Gun is one of those movies. I'm pretty sure I would not be in existence without the movie Top Gun. My mom had three too many tequila shots with my fighter pilot dad, so I'm pretty sure that's how I'm on this planet.
Dad, so
That's
your
awesome.
dad was a fighter pilot?
Yeah, my dad was a fighter pilot. He was with the Blue Angels for a while, and he was in the Navy. Yeah.
You should have told him Air Force is way better.
Uh-oh.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
So
Well,
Mash
on
Mash
that
is an
second
Air
one,
Force
I'm
guy.
actually-
On that note,
Air Force, so
He's
that's-
All
in
I'm
the Air
gonna say
Force.
is that
I'm in Air Force. I had to throw it out.
well, when I grew up on the Navy base, Santa Claus would come in on an FA-18 Hornet. So I don't know what's better.
And Santa
So,
Claus
Oh,
didn't
my
love me as a
goodness.
kid, so that attributes to a lot of my issues today.
it was funny because when I first started going to regular school, because I would always grow up like I was on the Navy bases, so I went to now I call it Muggle school, but
Yes. I
we
can
were
definitely
doing-
relate to that one.
because I started, it was like my first week, and it was like right before, like close to Christmas, and it was like kindergarten or first grade. And our teacher was reading like the night before Christmas, and then she goes, "Okay, everybody," and then Santa Claus arrives in and I shoot my hand up, and she goes, "Caroline." I go, "He drives an FA-18 Hornet," and she's like, "No, he drives a
Like, no, it's a
sleigh."
damn
And-
slave. Who are you right now?
And then I go, "No, the government upgraded him."
You're like,
Because that's
no,
what they used
teacher,
to
you
tell
know
us.
nothing, all right? I don't care about your 4 years of college.
I would bet
right.
that teacher still tells that story because that's amazing.
oh, yeah, that's so
She
funny.
actually does. My baby cousin, well, she's 18 now, but my smallest cousin, she actually was in the same kindergarten class, and she used to tell her that story.
No, it is
That's
cool. The Blue
amazing.
Angels are a lot of fun. I was down stationed at Eglin for a while and they used to fly over a beach there all the time. So I got to say that is really, really cool that your dad was a part of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can relate to growing up on military bases and even now. So I feel the Muggle school there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's good luck. Yeah. It's the military is pretty cool when you get down to it. It's there's some pretty cool stuff that happens. But yeah. Anyways, have fun too. I don't know when it's coming out in theaters, and I'm not paid to promote it, but I'm excited about it.
That's awesome.
I'm excited now, and I didn't even know.
So we have Carolyn King, that's the host of Bitch Beer Podcast, on. We also have the donation button set up for Pink Boot Society.
And the link to that is in my bio as well.
Awesome. Definitely set that up. That's our the link there. We have the button set up. Provide a donation. You'll get entered for the Lego bomber jacket. We've got a new order coming in that's going to be a little bit ahead of the Hops News bomber jackets that we'll talk about your only way to get here shortly. But this one here is pretty cool for anybody that loves koozies. Give a donation, whatever you can. Drop it in that bucket. We're a little bit shorter than I anticipated for this episode, which is a little disappointing, but I think we can get there here in this last half hour. It's set up there. Pink Boot Society definitely helps create opportunities for women in beer. Phenomenal organization. We talked to Carli earlier in the episode about what they're doing and their efforts. Carolyn, we definitely appreciate your time this morning. What is it that one thing that listeners should know about you personally and or the podcast, Bitch Beer Podcast?
Oh, wow. That's a really great question. Yeah, I'm an open book. Ask me questions. If anybody wants to, get involved in the beer scene or has questions on how to get involved in their local beer scene, I'd be happy to do introductions. I do that a lot. That's one thing I've learned about the beer scene is I will go to cities where I don't really know anybody, and then like someone that I follow on Instagram or kind of chatted to before, I can hit them up and within a couple of hours can meet up with and have a beer with somebody. So
awesome.
I think just it's such a great community. So I think just get out there and try to meet new people, and if the community that you have isn't really serving you, create your own.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For sure.
So,
and I have to say, anybody who's been following her, you've seen she's been a huge advocate for the Black Lives Movement going on right now, and absolutely read everything she posts, watch everything she posts. It's amazing because, the whole thing about craft beer is it's inclusive to everybody, and I feel like a lot of people are getting slammed for being like, this should be about beer, not about politics. It's not about politics, it's about diversity and inclusiveness.
Basic human decency, too.
Yeah,
right, and she's really portraying that very well on her Instagram right now, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure other people appreciate it more.
Yeah, and Carolyn, just so you know, we had Weathered Souls Brewing on just a couple of weeks ago, and I think their number. What was their last number, Mash? You said
they are currently in all 50 states. Which, first of all, that's amazing. All 50 states, 635 breweries, and then also 13 different countries. Yeah. It's insane the reach that they have for the Black is Beautiful movement. This is something that I'm very, very passionate about, so I love seeing it take off like that.
Yeah, that's
incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Carolyn, we definitely appreciate you. Tell the listeners where they can find you or your podcast at.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Bitch Beer Podcast. I am on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. About to be on Spotify, not quite yet.
Good.
And
awesome.
And then also bitchbeerpodcast.com. You can follow the blog and follow our beer journal. And then, Instagram, right now you'll see a lot of videos and pictures of me at protests. Well, not of me, it's of other people. But if you want to learn more about how to get involved with the Black Lives Matter movement and then how to help in your community, I have a lot of links up and links to other profiles that have that information. And then also stay tuned for episodes I have coming up. I will be talking with some of the organizers of the Black Lives Matter movement in Atlanta. I will be speaking to somebody at the mayor's office. So, and also just getting more involved in the community and how we can all come together. And there's also beer, of course, involved because, again, beer is for everybody and also equality is for everybody.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Life's problems could be solved if we just drink a beer and sit down and have a conversation.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of country songs about that. Beer fixes everything.
They might be onto something.
Yeah. Carolyn, we definitely appreciate your time and thank you for joining us today.
So
and everything that you're doing to promote women in beer is greatly appreciated.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. This has been wonderful. And we still need to talk about Pilot Pete and Real Housewives.
Look,
y'all want to have
you
me back? I
we
will.
need to talk. We're gonna talk offline because I have so much to say about I avidly hate watch, but I love it. I don't know. My hostage of the situation. The Bachelor. There's something about it that I'm drawn into either drinking wine or a beer and just
fire.
hating myself while hating these people. So we need to have a conversation. I look forward to that very much.
Yeah, maybe we need to have you back for another episode of just Bitch Beer podcast episode. That might be a Thursday night since you're on the East Coast with us, so that might be something easy for us to arrange. Definitely appreciate your time. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Awesome.
Bye.
Cheers. Happy Sunday, y'all. Have a great one. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Man, we've got some cool people that come on this show.
Hey,
that was a hell of a lineup this morning.
Some great guests this morning. If you're not watching, or if you are able to go back and rewatch, I highly suggest the guests that we've had on today were phenomenal. They've had a lot of great things to say.
Speaking of great beer songs,
we've had 3 amazing guests, and
it's incredible.
I'm about done with this 13% bomber.
Finally, she's like, yes.
Speaking of great beer songs, Beer Never Broke My Heart by our very own Luke Combs up here in the high country in North Carolina is a great one. And let's take it around the world again. Mash, what you drinking? We'll get ready for beer school. Hoppy can get ready for beer school when we hit her up. But what are you drinking out there?
I'm drinking the Yellowstone Golden Ale. If you get a chance, again, Yellowstone, I'm going to promote the hell out of Yellowstone because there's nothing quite like just being in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell service. It's quiet. It's peaceful. And then there's beers that you can get only in the park. And this one is a really smooth. If it was a hot summer day, this would refresh the hell out of me right now. It is incredible. Again, Yellowstone Ale, super smooth. It has a lot of a little bit of a citrusy taste to it, but not in a hoppy kind of way. More in like that refreshing manner that you really look for in an ale, and I can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. Let's go check in with Lucky. I think he's building a new apartment over there. What's going on, Lucky? How are you?
Sorry about that. I had to grab another one. I was out. And I didn't want to miss out on any of the Bitch Beer podcast. So I just opened. I don't know who sent me this one. Mad Swede.
Nice.
It might have been Mash. I think my refrigerator's full of his beers right now. So.
Awesome.
I think that's what it is. But yeah, I just cracked it. Haven't even taken a sip yet. So.
Well, let us know your first impressions. You're on the spotlight.
Very good. You guys have really gotten me into these hazy IPAs. I've said a couple times, I really hadn't had many until you guys started sending them up. But everyone that I've had is very good. Nice.
Glad you're enjoying it up there. Good to see you back to yourself this morning after a little rough start.
Yeah.
Yeah, people didn't see the beginning, but we got Lucky on this morning, and everything was jacked up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we had to walk him through it this morning. So definitely appreciate appreciate you joining us. Let's go check in with Brew Witch out in Germany. She might be a couple in by now. It's later in the evening, afternoon in Germany. How's it going out there?
So far so good. I just opened my 3rd beer. It's from True Brew, which is based out of Munich. I actually only just not discovered them. I only just figured them out recently. This beer is called Do a Backflip. It's a NIPA, which is extraordinarily trendy right now. I haven't tried it yet. We'll see how it tastes.
What did you say? It's a Nika?
A NIPA, New England IPA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. These are everywhere right now, to be honest.
No, we have them everywhere here too. I've always heard the acronym, but I've never heard the pronunciation of the acronym. So that's why I was like, maybe this is a fancy German thing.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not supposed to say NIPA. No one. I don't.
People say DIPA, so it's probably it's the same thing.
So what's your first impressions?
Look, we're just too lazy to say the full name. All right.
What's your first impressions there, Brew Witch, now that you've had a sip or two?
I'm actually quite pleased because it's not, because I've had loads of New England IPAs that are just extraordinarily fruity to the point where it's actually just like an awful lot to take in. So this one isn't it's a bit more mild, which I really appreciate. So I find it a lot smoother than some of the other ones I've had. So I'm pleased. And it tastes like there's probably oats in it or something. It's very, very smooth. I'm going to assume there's oats.
Yeah, trying to find a balanced IPA nowadays is a challenge. People are always pushing the hops and not so much the malt. So finding something balanced is great. And back here in Blowing Rock, we're checking out the collaboration with New Belgium and this New Mexico brewery. It says watermelon, lime, hibiscus, and agave. It was what was light that was left in the refrigerator, and I had to try it. So I think it's Primus Mural, and it is phenomenal light beer. Great breakfast beer. So let's
Have you ever had the Fat Tire from New Belgium? It's really good.
For anybody who's never seen before,
What?
Jay has a lot of animosity for Fat Tire.
Not animosity. It's just
doesn't know
not.
how to really bring it out.
Listen, it's not animosity.
Box one time where it's just Fat Tire.
I think for Christmas we're sending him nothing but boxes of Fat Tire.
Yeah.
Listen, it's
And
not.
Lucky's just getting crushed up Hetty Topper cans.
Yep,
Yeah.
perfect.
It's not animosity. Fat Tire is just not a good stepping stone for craft beer drinkers.
We're putting Fat Tire underneath empty cans of craft beer, so he thinks he's getting something really great. He pulls them out, they're empties, and it's just a box of full Fat Tire.
All right, that's enough promoting Fat
Apparently we're
Tire.
all
Let's go
really
down
mean
to
drunk.
Florida at Professor Hoppy and beer school. That's enough promoting
beer
of Fat
school.
Tire for
It's
the
time
for the
beer
day.
school.
It's time for beer school.
All right. Well, I've switched from my morning wood to some orange juice.
Sorry, I'm having trouble sending.
Can you turn off Alexa? Okay, it's time for beer school. And I got my orange juice in my Wonder Woman glass because we've had a kick-ass girls beer episode today. All right. Reinheitsgebot is how you say this. And if you haven't heard about it, it's considered the German purity law. Now, the information out there is very inconsistent and all over the place. So, and I'm a 13% bomber in, so bear with me. Not even noon. So, Reinheitsgebot literally translates to purity command. Now, often it's called the German purity law, but it actually started in Bavaria, which was not in Germany at the time when it started, although it is now. But this law started in 1516. And when it was created, it wasn't even called Reinheitsgebot. I'm going to say that as many times as I can because I just learned how to say it properly. Although Brew Witch might correct me, and I welcome that. So it wasn't even called that until the early 1900s. I tried to find out what it was called beforehand, but apparently there's no information out there for that. So back in 1516 in Bavaria, starvation was a real concern, as was brewing good beer. And if you caught our smoke beer session, which is also called Rauch beer in Germany, we discussed some of the flavor issues you used to have before technology and having to dry beer and all that fun stuff. So smoky beer wasn't the only issue people had with how the beer tasted. Often beer got soured or tasted funny, so brewers would try to mask that by adding things like herbs and spices, which was called gruit, or they would add things like ox bile, chicken blood, poisonous mushrooms. Which mushrooms on their own are pretty gross, but poisonous mushrooms just makes it worse. Thank you. Well, enter William IV, Duke of Bavaria, and his purity law mission in 1516. So his goals were, 1, to fix the prices during summer and winter for the beer. 2, it was to prevent brewers from actually competing with bakers to buy wheat. So it was kind of to try to control the pricing of wheat so that people didn't starve to death. And he wanted beer to just be water, hops, and malted barley. Yeast, they knew of yeast back then, but they thought it was more of like a chemical reaction. They didn't realize it was actually its own individual ingredient. So that wasn't actually added to the purity law until a few decades later. Now, what do you do when you can't cover your nasty sour beer with ox blood or poisonous mushrooms? Well, you figure out how to make
I can't
better
kill my
beer.
drinkers. What do I do?
Exactly, the conundrum that they had. So, in having to try to actually salvage this beer, it is believed this is when amazing bottom fermented lagers were created, because they stored the beer during the summer in these cold caverns or cold caves, and they let them ferment for a longer period of time, which is, anybody who's brewed beer knows that lagers take a lot more time to ferment than ales. And allowing it to mature in the cold storage lets the yeast sink out of suspension, and then you ended up with these, really good bottom fermenting lagers. Now, some people will say, yeah, but you can't have German or Bavarian beer without wheat. What the hell? I mean, Munich's Oktoberfest, their go-to beer, their sponsor is Polliner's Hefeweizen, which, fun fact, I actually learned that at Epcot. I always thought it was actually an Oktoberfest, but it's not. Well, so right after this was passed, there was actually a royal family called Degenburgis, I don't know how to say that, and they were basically handed a monopoly from this duke that said, okay, only you guys can make wheat beer, but nobody else can. And many think that the actual goal with the whole purity law had nothing to do with getting better beer or purer beer or helping starving people. It was more so political and financial, which isn't really shocking. Because Weiss beers or wheat beers, Weiss actually translates to white, but these wheat beers were only known to be drunk by aristocrats. Aristocrats. I've seen that movie too many times.
It's the Aristocats.
Right. Don't say that again.
13%.
Okay, so now since beers from other areas didn't follow the Reinheitsgebot laws, they weren't as competitive in Bavaria because they cost more, because they were price fixing those beers. So really, a lot of people think that they did this law to control the prices, make Bavaria beer more competitive, and who knows. There was also religious beliefs that a lot of these weird ox blood ingredients and whatnot were pagan ritual ingredients, so there was a religious push. I mean, I feel like there's always a religious push for any kind of movement like this. So eventually this monopoly reverted back to the Duke of Bavaria in 1602, and then they opened multiple breweries that were just based around Weiss beers, and they had that for the next 265 years. But a lot of people feel that this law wasn't even very enforced around this time because, I mean, who cares? And then they also think that wheat beer lost a lot of popularity and lagers kind of grew in popularity at that time. So now we're going to fast forward to 1871. The German unification. I didn't know I was going to actually learn some history with geography and wars and whatnot, but, oh, my 16-year-old is jumping. She loves history. Okay, German unification. So Bavaria wanted the Reinheitsgebot throughout the entire of the new Germany. And a lot of people who were outside of Bavaria were like, no, we're not doing that. And then apparently the compromise was they basically taxed all the non-pure ingredients. So anything that wasn't hops, malt, or water got taxed. So if you added any adjuncts or anything else, you got taxed. You added wheat, you got taxed.
We've had war about taxes, damn it.
That's always the taxes. So here comes 1906. This is probably my longest lesson ever. I'm sorry. So in 1906, again, there was a whole new German history unification thing, and they demanded that the Reinheitsgebot be enforced. But this time they're like, okay, we'll do it all over Germany, but we're going to add wheat, coriander, and salt. When you hear those three ingredients, I don't know about anybody else, but I instantly think Hefeweizens and Gozas. Did I say that right this time, Jay? Goza?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Then fast forward to 1987, the European Union said, hey, Germany, you can have your own Reinheitsgebot laws, but you can't prevent us from sending you beer that doesn't follow those laws. Those are trade barriers. Germany didn't have a choice, so then they had to welcome in all these beers that don't follow this law. Fast forward in 1993, another law basically replaced Reinheitsgebot. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this law. If you interpret it, it basically means Provisional German Beer Law. And they added different grains to the law, they added different sugars, and they treated top and bottom fermenting beers differently. And then in 2005, there was a brewery that was making, I want to look more into this. That's a future lesson. There's a brewery that was making all these fancy beers, and Germany was like, you can't call those beers if you're going to add all this stuff. So the court ended up ruling in the favor of the purity law and was like, all right, you can call it a stout, you can call it an IPA, but you can't call it beer. So if you're going to add all these things.
This isn't beer. Get out of here.
Right. That's not beer. That's, I don't know, hippie stuff. I have no idea what they said.
Goddamn kids these days.
Kids these days. So there's two types of breweries kind of in Germany. You have kids these days, and Freigeist beer culture, it looks like that might be the interpretation. They're one of the people in Germany, a brewery in Germany, and they're like, you know, we're going to break these creative chains, and we're going to update Germany's unique historical beer styles, and we're going to do what we want. And actually, I've actually gotten their Kolsch in Florida. So they're brewing this beer in Germany, and, you know, they're like, you know, screw this. We're going to break these purity laws. We're going to do what we want. You know, these purity laws have been holding us back, and we're not going to let it do that to us. But then there's also breweries that wear it as a badge of honor. And there's even Maisel Brewery that considers these four ingredients the Fantastic Four. Did you hear that, Mash? Fantastic Four.
I hope it's better than the actual Fantastic Four movies we've gotten.
Oh, well, that's a given, yeah. Here's hoping. MCU has it back. Here's hoping.
It's a pretty low bar.
So we have so many hops, so many malted barley, so many yeast strains, and even your water can affect your beer. And you can tinker with the pH. You can get certain bacterias, like anybody who likes sour beers has probably heard lactobacillus. You can actually still use lactobacillus in the German purity law because it's naturally present on malt husk. So there's Maisel Brewery in Germany, and they love this. They're like, give us these 4 ingredients and we will show you what we can do. They run with it. And I think that's absolutely amazing. They can take these things that other breweries have to add things to, and they create these things on their own. So you have both of those schools of thought. But honestly, many, Germans, they think the Reinheitsgebot is a badge of honor. I feel like in the States, it's kind of having that upside down beer bottle on your logo. It's just, it shows culture and heritage, and it shows damn fine pure beer. And honestly, some people see it as an obstacle. And some people look at it as just, magic, because honestly it is. And as much as I love my Imperial bacon-aged maple bacon coffee porter, there's something to be said about a German beer brewed with the purity laws. I mean, it's just, I look forward to having a good German beer anytime. And, that's about it. So Prost.
Prost.
Yeah, that was the best beer school that we've had in a while, because it gave me the opportunity to hit the latrine. Cheers.
Oh yeah,
I will tell you, I was about to burst at the seam. Yeah, that was amazing, Professor Hoppy. We appreciate that, and I think it was great to hear that history about the German beer laws. I go back to some of the first conversations we had at our international one. They're very strict rules, but show me a bad German beer. I mean, I just
never had a bad German beer myself.
Yeah, it all goes back to kind of like a bad German beer is like going to the Vatican and having a bad service. It just doesn't happen, right? I mean, those breweries are very proud and have been around much longer than the United States has even been a country. Oh, yeah. Brewing beer. So it's good that they have them. I know it kind of leads to some challenges and, some bad feelings about some up and coming places and that sort of thing. But man, I will tell you what, you can go to any beer fest in Germany, and as Brew Witch knows, there's a brewery in every village, a winery. They all have their own little things, probably much more so than what we have here in the United States. And it's a good product. They don't last as many years as they have putting out a bad product. So I get it that it kind of creates barriers, but sometimes those steep entries to the market are well served, because it is a great product that they put out there. Brew Witch, let's get your kind of your take on those laws and kind of what you feel on the ground over there. So we'll head over to Germany and bring Brew Witch in, and kind of what's your take on these German beer laws, and what does the average everyday citizen think about them?
The Reinheitsgebot, like, it's often like a marketing thing almost, because they'll put it basically as a badge on the beers. I'm not sure if any of mine have it right now, but like, it is something of like a badge. It'll say like it's brewed in coordination with this, and like, it is a marketing example, because people will read into it and be like, oh great, like it means this is what I'm drinking. And like Meitzel's that you mentioned earlier is loved. The Meitzel's Pale.
I called it Maisel, so yeah, okay.
Motto, it doesn't matter.
She's over here rolling her eyes like, oh.
No, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, because I had read that they had the most comprehensive beer museum, so that sounds amazing.
I mean, I guess I'm not surprised, because they are a fairly big deal, and they do roll out loads of different things. But like the Meitzel's Pale is one of our best-selling beers by far. Like, if you were to think of the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and then just like make a German counterpart, it would be their beer.
Well, I had read that they even use U.S. hops to make some of their beers, because that's still in line with the purity laws.
Yeah, I think they do. Like, it's an excellent beer, and it sells so quickly. And I have loads of people who come in and they tell me that they don't like beer, but they like this one. And like, people do reference the purity law as well. Like, it's just like, there's a lot of people that it makes quite a big difference to if it adheres to this purity law, And like there are loads of breweries that don't bother, and it also doesn't really make a big difference. Like Freigeist that you talk about is so fun. I did not know that you could get it in the U.S., but that's very cool because they're so interesting. They've had like a fennel goza that was extraordinarily interesting. They've had a smoked. They didn't call it a Berliner Weiss. It was a different kind of like sour Weiss beer, but like it was so fun. Like all their beers are just so experimental and interesting, and I'd love to just get a flight of all of them if I could. Like, because there's a lot of people who do care a lot about the purity law, and then there's a lot of people who don't care at all. So like it's both like a great thing and also just like a nothing thing. But like it is, like it's important in a million different ways, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you for that
the
perspective.
only one we could get was the Kolsch. And how do you say that again? The
Freigeist. Which one?
The one that it sounded like, it looked like the second part of their name was beer culture.
Oh yeah, it's something like Freigeist beer culture, Braukultur.
Okay, so it is beer culture. Okay.
I think you're right. That's beer. Yeah, I haven't I try to get them into the shop I work at when I can, but I haven't had them for a while. But they're so interesting. And
yeah, we just get the Kolsch.
I mean, I'm sure that's also super fun. Like the smoked Berliner Weiss we had, I got a full case of it, and I spent probably 2 months pushing it. But I feel like we're not having it, so I drank probably at least.
You're like, oh God, I guess it's on me. Oh no.
I can't imagine a smoked Berliner Weiss, though. That sounds so interesting.
So cool. I love
so good.
I'm a sucker for I'm a sucker for smoked things. So like I feel like
yes, smoked beers, smoked foods.
I love
I
love smoked IPAs and smoked porters and stuff, but a Berliner Weiss, that's like a sour.
That's the thing. I didn't know what to expect, and then I tried it, and it made sense. Like, because like,
I love
feel
that
like
when that happens.
That's the thing. Like in my head, I couldn't really put those two things together, and then I tasted it, and it's like that is a smoked sour. All right, like it made sense.
Nice.
Oh God, that was great.
Yeah, thanks for that perspective. Let's talk a little bit of hops news now. I pulled an interesting article from Wine Magazine, which they may have their own slant hopes, wishes, but they have an interesting take on the beer industry and the restaurant industry as a whole due to the pandemic that we're coming out of. They say, and this is a quote, "Short term, the industry has hit the iceberg at midnight." This guy is Steven Zagor, and a professor of restaurant and foods at Columbia University Business School, estimates that 30% of restaurants that were open prior to the pandemic will end up closing. He also says that 3,600 breweries here in the United States will end up closing their doors post-pandemic. Man. Those numbers are huge numbers, folks, and I will tell you, I hate to say it, but I tend to agree with this gentleman that we know the beer market was saturated prior to the pandemic. Coming out of it is not going to be very good for a lot of breweries. If you're a brewery that's overextended, and I can talk about this from a numbers guy, if you're a brewery that's overextended like many of these guys are, and we will see some big names fall that end up closing doors and ceasing operations just because they were completely overextended going into this, and it's not going to get better overnight. So this is interesting. The headline is "Brewers Pivot to Survive the Pandemic, and the Future of Craft Beer Lies in the Balance." I wouldn't go to extremes to say that the future of craft brew lies in the balance, but the future of many of these craft brewers are going to lie in the balance, because it is going to be a huge problem coming out of this. And if you haven't done the right things in your community, you're going to be struggling. And I think Brew Witch has a little bit of hops news as well. So let's check in with Brew Witch about beer news.
You know, I know you guys have talked before about breweries that do social fundraising, so stop me if you guys have already discussed these things. But over the past couple of weeks, I've been very impressed by some of the breweries that have been pulling out these solid fundraisers and what they're doing to raise funds for whatever it is. So I just wanted to mention a few of the more international ones that I was quite impressed with, and some of the U.S. ones as well. Like, for example, Yeasty Boys, their UK division, they have some beer called White Noise, and 100% of all the sales of the 12 packs will go to mental health for,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's a mental health for specifically, I think, the Black community in the UK, which is quite cool, 100%, which I was very impressed by. And also, there's in the UK, the Queer Brewing Project. They have a birthday collaboration brew set up, and all of their funds, to my knowledge, or at least a portion, are going towards the UK Black Pride, which I was very impressed. Like, we're in Pride Month now, and like obviously, it's not going to be able to have a lot of their events right now. So like, fundraising for that in any way is great. And on a more like US based note, Allagash this weekend, all their online shop profits. I'm very impressed with this. All of their online shop profits are going to a series of things. It's going to Beam, the Black Emotional Mental Health Organization. It's going to NAACP, the Legal Defense Fund, and then there's another Maine-centric community fund that's going towards. So if you guys are in the need for a T-shirt, I bought two. Do it.
Yeah, hey, even if you don't, just help support it. I mean, I know Allagash does a lot of good charity work, anyways, but it's all going for a great cause right now.
Yeah, like I feel like breweries are just pulling out all the stops right now, and I'm thrilled.
Absolutely.
It really
Like, it's
seems
just
like that.
It's made them get a little more creative, I feel like, and that's not a bad thing at all. And it's not even just being creative. It's like, hey, we have a chance to really make a difference because a lot of different people from all different backgrounds come to these craft beer, breweries. And it's like, well, let's appeal to that market. Let's use our platform for good. And it's amazing to see.
No, it's just great. And like people, like the breweries are coming out with organizations I've never heard of, and it's a good thing I'm learning about them.
Yes.
And like, I'm just impressed. So like, you can donate to whatever you want individually, but also you could, if you're trying to buy beer at the moment, you might as well go through one of these organizations and buy something. Like the last one I'll mention is Goose Island right now. They have a new beer that's called the Shea Cool Ale. It's named after Shea Coulee, who is a Chicago drag queen. And all the proceeds go to Trans Tech, which does vocational training and job placement for trans people. So like,
awesome.
You can buy, like, obviously support local, but also if you're trying to order something, consider someone who's doing something like this.
Yeah,
Right. That's awesome.
Just take a quick 2
We'll bring it
glance
back out to the five of us here as we wrap things up. We apologize for going a little long-winded today, but it's been a great episode and worth every minute
Do not
of it.
apologize.
So
we
the
had
bomber
some
jacket
amazing
giveaway
people on today.
is still on. You've got a few more minutes to give to the Pink Boot Society. The random winner will be drawn from that. Upcoming episodes. So next week we have on Boise Brewing Company. And we also have in the following week on our Thursday episodes, Payette Brewing Company out of Idaho. Some great Idaho brews on store, and that is Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're always here. Maybe we can get the Brew Witch to stay up a little late for us one night, or get up early.
I don't know. I think she have to wake up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, we'll get up a little early and drink beer like we are. So, yeah. So maybe we can have her on an episode as well. Thursday night hoppy hours every week, 8 p.m. Eastern here on the East Coast. Wherever you're at, adjust your clock, set your time, set your alarm, and join us there. We also obviously like, share, follow, help us spread the word about Hops News. Our mission is simple: philanthropy through beer. We want to raise money for these great organizations, and I look forward to arranging some of these breweries that Brew Witch mentioned to be on the show. Yes. I will tell you, we have been. It's kind of funny being in the group chat, and Brew Witch, if you want to be a part of it, we're welcome to add your number. But there's obviously conversations going on from early morning till late at night, and hearing some of the breweries and the organizations that are reaching out to us is pretty amazing. I mean, we're kind of getting a name for ourselves of what we're doing pretty quickly, and it's great to hear. So if you can like us, follow us, share us on all of the social medias, would be greatly appreciated. You can follow us. You can find us at Hops News on any of them. You type in at Hops News on any of these social medias, we're going to be there. It would be great and a great service to what we're trying to do and spread that word. And this leads into our Patreon movement that we started, I guess, last Friday, and it has
had some success already.
Yeah, it is really taken off to the point where we had to limit our top Patreon level to just 10 Patreons. And I will tell you guys, this is kind of breaking news, right? We had a Sip of Sunshine Patreon join us during the episode. So Rob Fulham, I think he's a
that's I've known Robbie for 15 years. Yeah. I love that man to death. Yeah. Thank you, Robbie.
Yeah, that's awesome. We also have Brian Sheehan, we have Brett Eldridge Smith, that's a PBR level, we have Lori Harper, that's a Sip of Sunshine, Jason Hewitt, that's a Sip of Sunshine, and Jeff Langer, that's a Sip of Sunshine level. Great. We definitely appreciate it. And these guys know, I mean, we are promoting our page. We are promoting our episodes. Every time somebody joins, I spend that money in advertising right now. So trying to grow that numbers. Sip of Sunshine level is the highest level. There are only 5 of those left now? 10 altogether.
Yeah, we've had some really good success on that level. It's been really impressive.
Yeah, it's been good. But they get kind of an all access pass, and we'll bring them on some episodes here in the near future on our Thursday night episodes to be a part of the show. They also will get a custom Hops News bomber jacket that's still in the works. We've got about an 8-week turnaround on that bomber jacket, so as soon as that's out, we will get that out to you. We also have a social hoppy hour where we're bringing in our Patreons of the pale ale and higher level to be a part of that. And this is kind of selfish of us, because I'll be honest with you, what I hope we can accomplish from that is to learn about breweries and nonprofits in your local area that we need to feature on our shows. So that is a complete selfish move, but we will bring you into a virtual hoppy hour to join us, talk about the beer you're drinking and what amazing breweries are doing. And our pale ale level kind of gets that. They get the decal that everybody gets, and they also get to join us on that virtual hoppy hour. And our lowest level, which everybody starts out drinking, is a PBR level. That's a $5 a month commitment that gets the decal and gets you into the private Facebook group that everybody is a part of. That's where the magic is going to happen with the beer exchange. And if you've not if you've not seen the beer list that Hoppy, Lucky, and Mash have put out, that is an impressive list. If there's a brewery in the United States that you've wanted beer from, chances are one of the 3 of those guys can get it, because I'm not so well connected.
Well, even if there's not one and there's like a region you've never been to and you want to try their beer, I'm telling you, we have so many breweries. Yep, so many.
And we're gonna bring Brew Witch into that group. Beer exchange, obviously, from overseas is a little difficult, so we won't put her on that spotlight. But from us, you can just tell the postal service that it's motor oil, and they'll send it. No, that's just kidding. Just tell them it's juice. Yeah, just tell them it's juice. Yeah, tell them it's hand sanitizer. They might deliver it for free.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's
they're gonna charge you $3.
Yeah, so I
promise anyone who joins the Patreon, I will put sufficient shipping and whatnot. I will put extra postage on there. You're fine.
Yeah, and that's a little inside joke. We've got the other 3 on this side have gotten packages.
$35. So.
Yeah, we've gotten
packages. I'm mailing you 15 cents, just so you know.
Perfect.
We've gotten some packages from Hoppy Mommy that's been COD this past week, so it's been kind of a funny thing going on here. Let's go around the world. We're gonna go check in with Hoppy down in Orlando, Florida. Hoppy, how can people find you, and what's your parting shots?
You can find me on Untappd or Instagram, The Hoppy Mommy. My parting shots are I'm drinking some nice orange juice. And I have to say, if anybody can't afford to donate or join the Patreon, I know times are tough right now, sharing us, liking us, loving us, that's almost even better. You never know who you're going to share it with. So that's my parting words. And cheers, prost, salud, skull.
Awesome. Great parting shots. Let's head out to Idaho, check in with Mash. Mash, where can people find you, and what's your parting shots for the viewers today?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Matthew Tyler, Facebook. I'm not on Untapped. I was, but I need to get back into it. But yeah, all the other platforms I'm on, find me there. Like Hoppy Mommy said, share us. You know, you never know. You might not like beer, but somebody might. It might be a good thing. And we're just trying to really give back to the community, make the world a better place. Like Jay Brew said, we have Boise Brewing Thursday. We have the guys from Hop Heroes podcast. So if you're into some comic books and beer, they're on this coming Thursday night. We have a lot to say there. And then the following Thursday, Pyatt Brewing, along with Bottle Share, who does a lot of good charity work. So make sure to share us, like us, and we'll see you then. Cheers.
Awesome. We're headed out to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Kind of the, I hate to say beer mecca, but really, in beer in the United States, that's kind of where it started at, right? So let's head out to Milwaukee. Lucky, what do you have, parting shots, and where can people find you?
Parting shots, I will definitely not be taking any parting shots. I've battled through the hangover, but it's, I'm doing all right. But yeah, no, we love you guys here. I've been in the chat all day, or in the comment section. Love all you guys. We appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for helping me get through this hangover. I think we're coming up on 2.5 hours. We're coming up on 2.5 hours, and now I'm ready to go for like another 2. I mean, I could go all day with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, happy Sunday. I'm gonna have a very good Sunday fun day, I think now.
Yep.
Awesome.
But yeah, cheers.
Awesome. Let's go check in with Brew Witch. Brew Witch, where can people find you, and kind of what are your parting shots for this international edition?
You can find me on Instagram at Gilbear, JILBEARR. I'm on other things, but I'm not super active there, so it's best if you just stick to Instagram, to be honest. I mentioned a few people that we're doing solid fundraising right now, but I know that's not even like 1% of the people who are doing good work right now. So if you have other suggestions for us, send them at us. We'll feature them. We'll talk about them. We'll share what they're up to. And otherwise, thanks for having me. It was great.
Awesome. We appreciate you.
Yes,
we appreciate you hanging out. We're back at the 5 of us. We've got the bomber jacket. Just another minute left for you to be able to join by donating to the Pink Boot Society and being a part of that great organization, donating to them and getting your name in the hat for the bomber jacket. It's going to be a great one. It's bomber jackets are hard to beat, I will tell you that. And we shipped out, so if you were one that won a bomber jacket, life for me has been a little bit of a change. Your bomber jacket's on the way. So it was sent Friday. I didn't have the free time that I typically have, but it's on the way. So they're coming. It's been another great episode. We couldn't be more happier with the crowd that we have involved in our Patreons helping us support the organization. I will tell you there's a working process to improve the website, to develop that.
Yes, there is.
We also are planning some events, maybe hosting events where you're invited to join us for events, maybe live broadcast / beer dinners / brewery tours / those sort of things. So we are working hard behind the scenes to make all of this happen, and without the Patreons, we really couldn't make it happen. So appreciate you guys that are giving to help grow this name. And again, thank you for joining us Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back at it. Cheers. Have a great Sunday afternoon, evening, wherever you're at in the world. We appreciate you.
Right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh, Mad Swede. I see you. I'm going there next Saturday.